Hey guys, welcome back to the Pylon Show, episode number 148. It is on my channel here today because we are doing the year-end holiday special for Broodwar. And I don't think Roddy really cares about this game. So for you few who do, I have some wonderful members of the Broodwar scene here for you today. First off, I believe the first time on Pylon Show, Hawk, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's nice to be on, and it's great to have a holiday show for Broodwar. I love the game, so it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, good to see you. And then, of course, we have the Big Gyp. Congratulations on your BSL run. How you doing?
Thanks a lot, man. Well, I'm just really happy, honestly, to be here. I was hoping to get to chill with you guys again. Honestly, I know it. Like, seriously, I actually just, every time I hang out with everyone in here, it makes me really, really happy. So I would have been pretty depressed if we had ended the year without doing something like this. So thanks a lot for putting this on.
Yeah, got to do it. Thank you for the kick in the butt. Gypsy actually messaged me. He's like, are you doing the year end? And Cobra, I think, had already been like, are we doing the year end? It's like, yes, okay, sorry, let's do it. But also, we have a welcome back, TheNyoken. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Always excited to be on the Pylon Show. And I wouldn't miss this one because I always love to hear Gypsy's hot takes, and you know he's got a lot of them. So I'm looking forward to this show.
So true. It's insane to me how chipper and awake and happy you are. It's 7 a.m. in Korea right now. My eyes are still blurry. I had to throw a baseball cap on because I literally just rolled out of bed. Yeah,
I streamed like 2 hours before this. And I woke up at 7 p.m., so we're still good to go right now.
Damn. All right. We also have back dJaeyun, my favorite person to talk about on my stream due to his exploits with the other races. How are you doing, dJaeyun?
I'm doing well, man. I got blasted by Zerg this morning, and I've been tilting really hard. But yeah, happy to talk some StarCraft with the boys.
All right. Great to have you. And you don't see him moving, just with his hand in the air. The man everyone loves, probably the most important person within the scene. Zero, welcome. How are you doing, man?
Hey, guys. I lost the beauty contest, so I'm not allowed to use camera, I believe. So, yeah, thank you for having me. That's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you, guys, for the invitation.
Thanks for coming, man. All right, so it is the year-end episode, and always a lot of fun to kind of reflect on this previous year. Let me think. What is the best first thing that we can talk about here? How about we'll just start with this? Like, what do you guys think was overall the best tournament of 2021?
Are we talking just everything, or Korean, like the pro scene, or
we can do both? We can do anything we want. We're free humans. It's up to us.
How about we do like the best Korean tournament and then the best foreigner tournament?
Sounds good.
I think Korean. It's got to be this last ASL. In my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I think like Russia's run was just amazing, and Mini just showing that. You know, if there's any doubt about him being like this kind of gimmicky player, I think the fact that he made finals a third time, then finally won it, was incredibly hype. And the map pool is probably the best we've ever seen, I feel like.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I think the linking of the two ASL seasons was amazing because it was... literally the same top 4 players, which shows just how ridiculous Broodwar was. And obviously, like, Larva's spot, he gave it up. Rush won the spot and then became the player that replaced him. So, like, I feel like when you look at that, you don't normally see that in anything. That it's like, yes, exactly the top 4 players. They're the best. So here they are once again. So that was like an amazing part of the story for me as well.
Yeah, I agree. Last ASL was really hype, not just because I'm a Terran player and obviously wanted to see Rush do well. Because if you remember last year, we were talking about who's going to be the up-and-coming player. and I know you remember Artosis, we both said Russian, sorry. I mean, it was evident that it was going to be those two because they're so good. And I think now Rush has kind of shown that he's the clear favorite over Sorry. Like, Rush is ridiculously good. But the fact that Mini went back-to-back, he didn't win both, but went back-to-back finals, that's super impressive. And Mini, in not the last ASL, but the one before that, when I saw him build the cybernetics before Forge, I was like, okay, like, this is going to be revolutionary because he just crushed Queen. Like, it was so one-sided, it looked like a huge mismatch. But then, of course, the meta changed a little bit. Now you see more players playing like Forge style. I'm not a Protoss player, so I can't really, give insight to that. But at the time, I thought, okay, well, is Mini as good as he seems right here? But he proved that, well, he's no joke right now. And when you see him stream, I mean, he's nuts. Like, he's absolutely amazing. And for Zerg, Hero impressed me quite a bit. Like, I thought Hero doesn't really stand out to me, but this year he played really well. And I think in both ASLs, we saw him prove that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I found it odd when I remember there was this interview with that I think Team Liquid did with Flash, or maybe it was just translated on Team Liquid. And he mentioned Hero as like a really great Zerg, and he had made one ASL finals. And I was like, I don't see it. I don't really get it. But definitely this season, like that game he played against the Valkyrie build on Polypoi, the way he maneuvered his army, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this guy is entirely too good. This doesn't even make sense. Like, if he doesn't win an ASL next year, I'll be shocked.
Well, isn't he always like, in the group selection ceremonies, he's always like, no one wants to pick him ever, but you're just like, wait, why? But literally consistently, I don't think I've ever seen him picked like early on ever. He's like always the last four getting picked, and this guy's like a silent killer, man. Ursadon.
Yeah.
I was actually worried that the level of play would go down after CoinGate, because like people were talking about like, is this going to be the end of Broodwar and stuff? But I don't know. I kind of miss Flash. I wonder how he'd do if he came back. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Because it's like when your top players leave, are our eyes like adjusting to like the next tier players as like the top tier? Does that make sense? Or like, is it truly top tier? Is it truly Flash tier play? Or
you think Mini could beat Flash?
No, but
no, Mini would get fucking stomped. Are you kidding me?
But maybe like this is the confidence that he needed. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I think it's a little mental. So like, I don't know. It'll be interesting if he ever came back. I don't know if Jinjin got some hot news on that, but I mean, like, what's Flash doing? Like, how could you like play all this StarCraft your entire life? Like, you think he's on ladder, like floating at like 2400 MMR, like not getting too high to like get outed. Like he's just not playing StarCraft at all. Like,
dude, he's in the army. Dude.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's in the army.
Can he still play? Like, like
if he has time off, I don't know what he's doing in the army, but he can still play. Like, I think the better question is what Bisu is doing, because he's out of the army but disappeared. So like, maybe he's on the ladder. Maybe he keeps making new accounts to bash Artosis in the morning. I don't know.
The theories are true.
If you think about it, this is the time for a new player to come out and be the fake Flash.
I think Flash and Jaeyun are going to have a real hard time when they come back. Because once they left, all of these lower rated players suddenly realize, hey, if I actually like practice a ton, I've got a really good shot. Before, it was like Flash and Jaeyun were the gatekeepers. Like, no matter, at least this is what they thought. No matter how hard I practice, I'm just going to get smashed by this guy anyway. But now, now they're practicing a ton because they can realistically win. And now Flash and Jaeyun, well, Jaeyun is now, but Flash is not practicing at all. And so I think both of them are going to have a real hard time coming back.
Yeah, but finally Jaeyun is back, so that's great, I think, right, for the Zergs era overall, because I think Larvalo is no longer playing Broodwar like professionally after the winning ISL 11. So now we are hoping for Jaeyun to keep the torch alive.
Yeah, Jaeyun is officially out of the military as of like 5 days ago or something like that, like very, very recently, and he's very high up on the ladder. Like a couple games I saw of him, he looks good.
Speaking of which, like I like how this is going all over the place, but like even this morning I saw this morning, this was night for you guys in Korea, but who was it? Rain, Calm, Jaedong, Effort in the same pro league. They were pulling like 30,000 viewers in between all of them. Just insane. Just like on a random like what is it, Wednesday night? Is Broodwar like making this just the biggest resurgence ever?
Well, I mean, Broodwar never died in Korea.
No, I know.
Thousands of people that watch it every day.
You know what's crazy is that Rain like went off to do this whole like thing, right? Playing other games and like toying with cam girls and stuff, right? So I'm sure he's like grown his, I don't know what his like audience is like, right? But I'm sure he's like grown his, stream, right? So when he comes back to like stream these random things for Broodwar, like he's gonna bring in like a lot of people, right? I mean, like, yeah, they all knew who he was, but still, like it's like beneficial when like people do that, like, or I don't know, let's say like Larva like has a pretty big following outside of StarCraft, or even like Snow, like he makes all that YouTube content, or Larva. I already said that, but I don't know, when they go to do other things, then they come back, and then it just, I feel like it's going to become like big.
Yeah, like Broodwar was having a gigantic resurgence right before CoinGate because all the big League of Legends players started playing it on stream as well. They finally come to their senses, I guess. They don't want to cast magic spells with like one guy around the map. Like, what are you doing? But then it felt like it took a big hit from, Bisu and Flash were two of the biggest guys, but it's still doing really well. Like, the server is so fucking active at Korean nighttime. There are so many people logged on. It's like by 7 p.m. there's 30,000 people on the Korean server. And obviously people log on on any server. That's just like the one that my main ID is on. So I see that every night, but it's kind of crazy. And like I think with Jaedong coming back, like if Flash pops out of military and comes back, I bet you he will. Like, come on. Like people are gonna forget, and by then fucking Terran won't be playable, so we need him anyways. We'll just forgive him,
Damn, you ready for this hot take though? The next Flash is Sorry.
What?
No,
Sorry doesn't play like Flash. Sorry's got the skill, but he doesn't play like Flash. He plays fantasy.
But he plays like he's like the only Terran player I've seen. Like whenever I watch Sorry, he has his own brand. Like he has like very like interesting ideas, and I've not seen like any other Terran player. Every other Terran player, I feel like obviously like you look at someone like Light, and like he's obviously a meta setter, especially when you look at what he came up with on like Ringing Bloom and those like high ground maps with the 2-port and TVP, a completely different idea that no one really has done. But I feel like Sorry actually plays around a lot with this stuff. Even like he was the one doing the ghost stuff. But I remember I was watching one of his games. No, what are you laughing at, JaeyUn? I was watching this one game on Eclipse. He like lifted his racks. Like in TVZ versus Queen or something, he lifted a Rax, like proxied it at like the third, and made just like 2 Firebats and 1 Marine, and like avoided all the Overlords and just sent them straight to like the Zerg third base to just put it behind the mineral line. And it was like the most genius thing I've ever seen. And like I see this guy just come up with like these, he just has these like crazy ideas, and it just, I don't know, to me that's reminiscent of Flash, because he's like, Flash was really kind of the one bringing his own style, his own flavor. I mean, obviously they're not in the same, well, presumably they're not on the same skill level, but I mean, I think Sorry, like, it's just looking so amazing, honestly. The more I see him play, like, online, he does so well.
He's got like so
Flash,
many big brain moves. Go ahead, Zero.
Without Flash, we at least know what that we don't know who will win ISL, right? Because with Flash, we was certain that Flash will win. Mm-hmm. At least when he was not playing random, right?
And almost then too. But
I don't know, was he? Because I feel like, when he lost to Queen, we were like, oh, whatever, this guy just went this clowny Valkyrie build and stuff. But it turned out to be pretty much like the new build in the meta. So I feel like retrospectively looking at that, like he wasn't doing like this new weird build. He just got kind of donked on by Zero.
Well, it wasn't completely mapped out, that new Valkyrie build. Like, that's the first time we saw it like that. And then also, don't forget, he tried to super mind game on Neo Sylphid with that mech build, which was like a slow mech build against a lurker all in, and like that wasn't how that was supposed to go. And like that was pretty narrow how he lost that, honestly. Like that could have been a flash victory, that series.
I don't know.
The maps were also a lot better for Zerg back then. Like nowadays, they're kind of pushing the maps more closer to like Terran Protoss. But back then,
every map's Terran favorite, man.
Oh yeah, name one, Djayun. Name one.
Oh, we're kicking Djayun out of here. We don't need him anymore.
Ascension.
He plays Fighting Spirit anymore.
Void, Eclipse.
Eclipse is a Terran map. Not in the first 3 minutes versus Protoss.
Jesus,
if you're flat,
it's trolling so hard. Okay, so Djayun's trolling, guys. We'll let him back. Terran map. I haven't heard such BS in my whole life. But no, actually, Zero has a good point. Like Flash, and like Tasteless was saying it a lot, that he really prefers Flash not being in the scene because it makes it like really dry, because he is so much better than everybody. And that's not just us saying it, it's like the pros say it too. They're like, no, he's so good that you expect to lose to him. Like I remember so many interviews from ASL, right? Like we're sitting there getting it translated, and it's like Sulky in the round of 24. They'll be like, how do you think you're going to do? He's like, well, I'll do pretty well, but Flash is in the tournament, so it's like, dude, he's in the round of 16. You're in the round of 24. This isn't what we're supposed to be talking about, but that's how good he is, right? So now it does feel a lot more wide open, and actually in a lot of ways more exciting. And it also feels like we are going to get more, like what you guys were saying, where players can feel like they can practice more and they actually have a chance, and we can see more interesting, different developments. Because like when Flash is around, you just wait to see what his new optimization is, and then you just practice that, because that's going to give you the best chance, because he's so much better than everyone, right? But I don't know, it's kind of better without him in a way.
Yeah, in some ways it is, yeah. But I'd like to see him come back eventually.
Yeah, it's not the way anybody wanted it to happen, you know? We'd prefer if, like, the king was dethroned somehow.
Yeah. Like,
someone knocked him off the throne and did it that way. But the whole, like, coin gate into military, we'll take it, but...
Well, that's what you have to do to get rid of him, right? Like, you make anti-Terran map, that doesn't work, right? Yeah. Like... Protoss players learn how to macro, that doesn't work, and then it's like, well, military's coming, he's like, I'm still, look at me, random, top 4, and then it's like, CoinGate, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go away for a little bit.
Yeah, he even almost won that ASL that had the worst maps I've ever seen. It was, what was that one where it's like, not an island map, but
Third world.
Kind of third world. Like, I'm looking at this map as a Terran, I'm like, this is unwinnable. It's actually just unwinnable. You cannot win. And then he's like so close to beating Snow. First off, I could see it being winnable on Terran vs. Zerg. Terran vs. Protoss, no chance. And then he's beating the top player Snow, almost beating the top player Snow. I'm like, what is this guy? Like, how does he come up with builds? He's like using Valkyrie, Wraith versus Protoss. I don't know what the hell's going on. And he's winning. It's just crazy. He's going to come back because he wants to prove that he's still the best, and he's going to just lay down the law on people. What I want to see him do is right now, Terran versus Protoss is in this weird state where like you have to go like 4 or 5 factories before taking your third base. If you think about how Flash played like 2 years ago on Circuit Breakers, if he scouted that you're going 2-base Arbiter, he's just taking like 4 command centers off of 2 factories. Like, I'm waiting for him to come back and be like, you guys building 4 or 5 factories to take your third base? Are you crazy? I'm just going to build 2 factories and hold it somehow and just show everybody that, hey, you've been playing wrong for the past 2 years. This is how it's supposed to be done.
I do, because this is like a funny thing, especially like when I'm streaming and stuff. People are recalling things that Flash did 4 years ago and trying to act like that's what I should do. And it's like, you want me with 3 factories to make a 4th command center? Oh, that's like it's death. Like, you can't. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I want to see what he's gonna bring when he comes back as well. And the thing is, he'll fucking do it, right? Like, he's done this before where he comes back. He's like, no, you're all playing wrong. Here's the way to play.
Did you see that video where he like popped off on Zhongbi?
Yeah.
Like something about like this guy's been talking shit, man. Like, you know, I slapped him in the tournaments, man. I'm the king. And it's like, what an absolute competitor, man. Just
yeah. And he said, for those of you who haven't seen this, it's like a Jin translation that like basically a bunch of pros were at, like they were out drinking and Flash was like drunk, and he heard that Zhongbi talked shit, and he said that he was going to sponsored match him every single day. Which is like that's just, he's too cool, man. Apparently that made Zhongbi quit or something. I don't know.
The worst part about that is they were saying like Zhongbi isn't that good. He only won because I was practicing StarCraft 2. But you look back, you see what Zhongbi did. He invented the Storm plus shuttle style, like hot heavy ground style. And what has every Protoss done for the past like 2 years? Maybe not recently. That was the meta. And he came up with that. So it's like, was it really because you're playing StarCraft 2, or did he just innovate a really good new way to play PvT?
Probably
I think
both.
he's just innovating.
I mean, Zhongbi slapped Fantasy, and like Fantasy was slapping Flash by the end, so you know, show some respect. But,
yeah.
The transitive property.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I beat that guy that beat Flash, so you know.
Whatever, man.
I wonder what rank we can get down to doing that, where we can get it all the way down to an F rank Zerg player that like beats Flash, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this past ASL was good. Yeah, we really enjoyed it. It was quite fantastic. What about the foreigner tournaments? What is the best foreigner tournament of the year? I know we don't have maybe quite as many to choose from, or maybe we kind of do actually. Maybe we have more because Zero's such a workhorse. But what do you guys think? What was the best?
So I will be biased and I will say Ascension.
Wow, so humble.
Was that this year?
Especially that we have a champion here, right?
Yeah, that's true. Damn. Ascension was like all right, but I don't know how you put on so many BSLs. Like I made Ascension, and it's like probably 10% the work of a BSL. And like I haven't done another one yet. Like I have plans for a European one and a Korean one, and I just every time I look at it, I'm like, this is too much work. I can't do this right now. I gotta wait. But what BSL this year was the best?
Has to be the last one. It has to be.
One.
I thought it was super hype, and then we got the Chinese players who, like, even before the tournament started, people were saying, "Oh, Mihu's going to win it all." Now he ended up winning, but there were good games, and your boy down in the bottom right on the screen took him out, and I was going like, as a caster, I'm trying to not be overly favoriting Gypsy here, but as soon as the games are over, I mean, Gypsy can attest to this. I'm going in the channel like, let's go, right? And like it was just so hype for me, because obviously I'm good friends with the big Gyp here, and to see an NA player make top 4, you know, like the first time in like 2 years, it was great. So for me, it had to be BSL, and then of course the skill level had increased overall. Like Zeke played out of his mind versus Protoss. Hawk played out of his mind versus Protoss. DeWalt played really well until, you know, the Mihu games, and then Gypsy just slapped Mihu, and then Ultra, who, you know, like a year or two ago, you would like not even think of him in the South American scene. You think of Dandy and Terror. All of a sudden, I'm getting like fantasy vibe from him on the Wavelet game versus Dragon. I don't know if you saw that game, but like I'm watching it, I'm like, is this actually the same player? Like it was crazy how much higher a lot of the players have gotten in terms of skill.
Yeah, Ultra improved a lot this year, no doubt about that. And I think it was like a really good BSL if we take away the finals. The finals, I was a little bit, I don't know, what did DeWalt make any statement about that, by the way?
He sure did after game 1.
Yeah, no, I saw that, but I wonder if he came around afterwards and said anything, because I was just kind of like, what are we looking at here? This is not DeWalt level, it feels like. But yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on this BSL, guys? I don't want to shit talk DeWalt too much. He's such a good player and everything. It's just that that part of it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, how does he slap Big Gyp but lose the Mihu? I don't get it.
I don't get it. I get it.
Terran upgrades are bad. You don't want to get them too quick.
That's true. I gotta get 4 factories.
Fantastic.
But that style is kind of.
But this is so amazing that he's playing totally different style and he's still able to win like on the highest possible level, right?
Oh yeah. No, the thing is, I think Mihu played really well. He has like a very smart way that he plays, like the massing of units. He just keeps his supply really, really, really high. And the thing is, I was very happy with Mihu's play overall. It was DeWalt where I'm like, ooh, I feel like he could have played better. I wish we could have gotten a Mihu versus Boneth finals. I think his style would match up way better against Mihu.
It's tough to get practice versus like off meta stuff, because if you're just queuing on ladder, you're not going to see stuff like that. Delaying upgrades, just making a ton of units. So you're going to be thrown off by it. It's tough.
But what do you guys think about that? But just like talking about Mihu's style, right? Like he just delays. I think that game against TT1 on Ascension, he like maxed out like real quick, and I was like, whoa, this guy's maxed. And then like later we saw like he wasn't making upgrades, right? Because he's like sacrificing upgrades for all these units. And then he just like plays out in the middle of the map, like just laying mines. He just inches forward. He like sets his rally points, and I'm like. Part of me's like thinking, I'm kind of like, if you gave a supercomputer, like, like all of these vultures and they just laid mines everywhere and they like positioned perfectly, you just like, I don't know, is it doable that you just have more units, assuming you could control everything and you just lay all your mines? I don't know, like it looks scary. You're like putting pressure on Protoss, like you're taking away like their drops and recalls, and you know what I mean. So I don't know. I was just like thinking about it. I'm like, is this potentially a legitimate way to play?
I feel like if you have really precise Protoss play against it, it's going to have a hard time, because like some of these attacks he does where he's like, okay, these 10 siege tanks and 12 vultures are going across the map and they are not coming back. And if you have a Protoss that like really is on top of their shit and like the Reavers get multiple hits across the map and then you come in with the flank, it's like,
true.
I think you just have to be really on top of your game as Protoss, and his style is going to have a harder time, which is why I'm kind of like, ooh, I think Boneth would have a better series than what we saw from DeWalt.
I don't know. The off-meta stuff is always really strong, because people just aren't used to it. And I think DeWalt specifically in that finals just didn't play up to his level. But I also think one part of it was him tilting. And you can kind of tell he has like sometimes issues with dealing with his emotions. But I think on the other hand as well, to give credit where it's due, Mihu playing this like off-brand, especially super aggro style in a meta where Terrans are sitting. Like I sat there and I allowed like DeWalt could play comfortably against it, even if it's even if overall it's like the better way to play, especially as you scale skill level. There's a lot to be said, especially in a tournament environment like that, where you also have limited play against your opponent because it's not like you're grinding games or whatever. When you come up with something especially like that, delaying upgrades. The thing is, like, upgrades are really good, but they're not like blanket really good in the sense that if you eventually get them, and especially if the game is chaotic enough to like make you ignore those crucial timings, like not having to get it by 16 minutes. If you get the game to get up to 20 minutes, you'll still get 3-2 eventually. But also, like, if your opponent's playing absolutely no carriers ever, which is one part of the game where upgrades are insanely important, right? I think, like, it's just really strong if you're not used to it. Like, carriers right now are becoming so trendy because I feel like they're the kind of off-meta response to what we're seeing a lot. Even, if you look at, like, Russia's style with, like, the eBay Armory style and, like, the No Academy, he even said it himself, right? Like, I know you've seen the video, Artosis. By the way, Rush makes like amazing tutorials, but like carriers are making a huge return because they're just so strong against, on a lot of the maps, but also the current meta that basically delays getting scouting. So in the form of scans. So when you play off meta, it's like when a Terran player comes in and plays Starport style, and you never play Starport, and then you have this guy like Shiny, right? Like he's really good at that. If you're not used to it, it's just really hard to play against. So,
well, what makes it harder is it's hard to read what he's doing because he has 4 factories, and you're like, okay, is this a timing? But then it not necessarily a timing.
Yeah,
like it could just be a third command center. Like as I was watching those games, the Wavelet game, he did take a third command center. The Ascension game, I knew it was going to be a 5 fact, but I mean, first off, I'm a Terran player, so I have more knowledge than generally other Protoss players, but even I was struggling with full vision to realize, okay, like, is this going to be a command center? Is this going to be a 5 fact? I was able to figure it out before he put them down, but it took a while. And the observer doesn't have full vision. Like, they don't have SCV count at the natural. They don't have, the armory. They can't see the army the whole time. They can't see how many units this guy's already built. They can't see all that. So I'm guessing from Protoss' point of view, you see 4 factories. What beats 4 factory? Well, Gateway Flood, because you want to stop this timing. Well, if Terran just sits there, you're stuck with Gateway Man. You don't have to have 2-1 versus Gateway Man. Mm-hmm. You just want Terran, you just want Protoss to not have Arbiters or Carriers or Templar. If they don't have any of those 3 units, I'll fight you with OO. I'm fine with that. Like, that's fine with me. Just max out on the worst comp in the game, and we're good to go. And that's what Mihu's style does, is it forces you into this comp that's just not good. And even if he gets slow 2-2, like his 2-2 completed at like 16 or 17 minutes, I mean, the Wavelet game, like Chow had only 2 Arbiters. If you're only going to have 2 Arbiters and I still have 2-2, that's fine. Like, it's just really hard to read what he's doing. And he has huge econ behind it too.
Honestly, Mihu's really good. Like, he's, like I don't want to go into the territory where it's like, well, this guy just gimmicked DeWalt out of the tournament. Even when I was playing against Mihu, to be honest, like, I felt like I was having the games of my life. Like, I was playing as well as I could. I felt really comfortable, and the style matched up for me against him. But I could feel it even playing against him, that he was an extremely strong player. And then watching his games, especially against DeWalt, but even versus Siki, I mean, he just, like, he has his own brand of Terran, which is not Korean style, but he plays it so well. And I mean, I think DeWalt for sure, not his best games, but Mihu, like, I mean, he's really good. So
I just want to say something on top of that real quick. And when you play somebody good, you know instantly that they're good. It'll be like something subtle, like he just moved his probe a certain way, or a Zealot got off an extra hit. Like, as soon as you see it, you're like, oh shit! Like, we're playing the real deal. We're playing the real deal right now. So
it's very true. That's kind of one of the nice things about this BSL. I actually got really excited when I saw the Chinese players like being allowed in. So cheers Zero on that. It's like, it kind of adds this extra dimension because we're not used to seeing them. They're not really part of this scene or of the Korean scene. So to kind of add them in and have that, and then have, 2 of them top 8 and, have Mihu go all the way is like really exciting. And the Chinese have always, like, we used to play with the Chinese players some back in the old days, and like they always had these different weird styles. Like Mihu actually reminds me of Super, if you remember TheNyoken, like kind of similar, where they're just like massing so many units, not really caring about upgrades as much. And to have that different style come into the scene, I think is like super refreshing, right? Like you got regular Macrobot Gypsy, which is still one of my votes for one of the strongest foreign Terrans, and then you got like the fancy Terror, and then you have like Mihu joining the ranks where it's like he doesn't even start +1 in TVZ. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't get it. But he beats Siki, so I'm like, all right, that's pretty sick because Siki's really, really strong. And then it makes it so interesting. And like Mihu is like a 2,400 player or something, and meta shifts don't always come. This is something I definitely learned from my years in StarCraft 2. They don't always come from the top. Sometimes you'll have meta shifts that come from lower, and they work their way up to the pros because they work really well. So you're beating people above your range, and then people figure it out and try it, and then they beat people above their range, and it can actually go to the top. So I'm going to be really interested in the following months to see if any just mass like factory man builds, like right? Like it's factory man. What
factory man?
That's what happened with the Tosspot, right?
So it's a Thailand version of Gateway.
Yeah. That happened with Tosspot. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he came up, and this happens in in MOBAs, even though like MOBAs are the evolution of RTS, so we have to look at them sometimes, but
it's a dead end.
Sometimes.
But like in MOBAs, it's always like they always look at one tricks, right? Like League of Legends, for example, they look at like solo queue one tricks who like come up with these like weird ass like item builds, and they're like, oh yeah, this is really good. But Tosspot with the optimization for like the Nexus first or whatever the gate expand, but also like Factory Man for sure. I think if there's one thing in TVP that might eventually work is like some kind of aggressive factory openings that just slow down and take third bases, because Protoss always has to respect that. They have to always put down gates, stop pro production, and then if Terran just doesn't lose supply, doesn't commit to the attack, just sits back, gets an armory respectably timed and like a third base, they're still in a good spot. But we'll see if the pros ever try to do anything like that, because the paradigm right now is just armory. Like even Light said, like upgrades are just more important than your third base timing, fourth base timing. So
yeah, well, Mihu's got the best of both worlds, right? Like not only is he not getting the upgrades, his thirds are as slow as people who do. So and he's good. It's just it's a weird thing to watch as a Terran player, because I'm like, you can have 2-1 right now and have 4 bases. So I'm confused why this is working, but I think TheNyoken is on the right path of describing it, where it's like it's what it pays off in is the smart Protoss player playing against it and being like, oh, I might get attacked, and thus producing the more units and stuff like that. It's kind of a fascinating thing, because it really relies. I wonder, like, if you would lose more games against people who just don't use scouting intel,
So B rank
it's like
Protoss.
B rank. I didn't say it. Okay.
I mean, that's the same thoughts that I had. Is when I was watching, I was also confused. I'm like, this guy's not doing anything amazing, but like in the Zeke game, I'm watching him literally just sit there with like 50 Marines medics. He's not getting plagued. He's just building vessels and rallying units across the map. And he's still just sitting there. If I'm playing this game, I've already gotten plagued like 3 times. Probably my whole army's dead, or I'm running, but he's just sitting there. And then the TVPs, like his armory's late. He's got 4 factory. I'm like, what is that? Like, why don't my games go like this? Why can't I get Walt in this situation where he's maxed out and he only has like 1 shuttle full of Templars or whatever? Or the Chow game, I don't know what Chow's MMR was, but it looked like a complete mismatch, like on the Wavelet game. And I'm watching it, I'm like, but Mihu didn't even do anything special. What happened this game?
He just sits there, dude. That's what
he just sits there.
That's the
I think it's a tournament thing. Like if nothing's on the line, I think it's so much easier to play against that. But like the whole make a bunch of units, make a bunch like 8 gateways or 5 factory, and then you just don't push, right? You make a bunch of stuff. It looks like an all-in. Your opponent is sure it's an all-in. It's a tournament game. You're like scared for your life. You're like, I got to cut probes. I got to cut this. I got to cut that. The attack's coming. I just need to defend, and then nothing happens. And you're like, wait, when did I get behind? What happened?
Yeah.
Because it feels weird. It feels weird to be like, okay, I can't cut too much. No, when it's tournament, you're freaking out, and it's really hard to stay calm and be like, I can defend. This is enough units. I don't need to cut probes. If I just control right, I'll be fine. Like that's hard in tournament to think that way.
It's also like meta is always this fluid thing. Like I think once upon a time people really had this conception of like, oh, there's a right way of playing a game and there's a wrong way of playing a game. But the reality is it's really just these styles that develop within groups of people, and it's like self-permeating. Like you just go on ladder and you play the same thing over and over again, and you get used to that system, and like that's how you play the game, and all the players within that ecosystem like do that. But then you go into another group of players, and that's why like the foreigner scene is so different than the Korean scene, and like even than the Chinese scene, because all these players just end up like creating their own ecosystems, and I mean, it turns out that Koreans are just way better, but like, does that necessarily mean they've exhausted every possible like permutation of like how to play the game? Probably not. But, you know, if you're like an up and coming Terran player in Korea, let's say, you're not going to sit there and like experiment with your own ideas. You're just going to copy what works. So like really the people actually like advancing the metagame is probably just one person, Light, or, you know, Rush, or maybe Sorry eventually. But, you know...
Did you guys... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, sorry. My microphone sucks.
But you know what I mean? So, like, I think there's answers out there. It's just people end up, like... it's hard to get out of that, like, box, you know?
Yeah. Well, the game is so difficult, you kind of feel like you have to copy people to get to a certain, you know, to continue to improve, because the answers are so fucking complicated and the optimizations are so difficult to come up with on your own. Like, even watching some of these new optimizations where you get in certain positions, you get your factory almost 10 seconds faster if you fucking mine correctly. It's like, what are this is like, you know,
I get that 230 factory, man.
I can play this game for a billion years, and that was never going to be something I found out, right? Like, that's something that just has to be copied. But definitely, like, you can see some of these like, look at the ranges of play within the foreign scene that you see in BSL, right? Like, these are things you will never see from high-level Korean players, and you'll never see non-high-level Korean players. Just to put that out there, right? It's only the pros who are kind of copying each other. And occasionally you get someone like Sorry or Royal, right? Yeah. That is coming up with their own stuff, but there's no Ghost Dark over there.
No, but you know what? You know what? I'll just say this real quick. I think, like, you know, people. I think the idea is that, like, pros, the top pros, right? Like Light, he would have an answer for this. But I think if you just maybe you went like 1-2 steps down, maybe not the top Korean amateur, but like, you know, those like really high level Korean amateurs. You put them in the same situation, like BSL situations. Like, okay, play against this player who has like a completely alien style. I bet you, like, it wouldn't be as face roll as you would think. I think a lot of you know, even really, really strong Korean players, when they're faced with these new things, would struggle unless they're literally like lifelong pros that have been playing the game for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree.
I wanted to add in this topic that did you guys realize that this year we have a meta swing in the PvZ where Protoses are no longer going for +2 weapon upgrade, but they are going for armory much faster. And like for 20 years, I've been told that you should make +2 weapon upgrade just to match the car pace from the Zerg, and now the meta swing this way that going for this armor is much more efficient. So yeah, the meta swings like all the time. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. Like, in fact, people get +2 armor more often than +2 attack for their third upgrade in PvZ now. I've noticed as well. Yeah. Like, I see that all the time right now. And like, I try to ask people what that's about, and I mostly just hear like High Templars live through mutas more. Is that actually what's going on, dJaeyun and Hawk?
I'll give it to Hawk.
Yeah, so Templars do all the damage, and Hydra Muta has a tough time killing anything if you have +2 armor. And so, okay, the attack upgrade, the reason why you get +1, because +1 armor would be better than +1 weapons. The only reason why you get +1 weapons is because if you don't, then Zerg can make Zerglings. Mm-hmm. So you stay up just one weapon upgrade, and basically Zerg can't make Zerglings, and if they show Zerglings, then Protoss will get +2 weapons, because Zealots 2-shot Lings once they have upgrade advantage. So you show that, and then you basically tell Zerg, go Hydra Muta, and once they go Hydra Muta, then suddenly weapon upgrades, I mean, who cares, right? Your Zealots don't attack anything. Your Zealots are just giant meat shields that never die. You know, your Templar doesn't get anything from weapon upgrades. And so you may as well make them live longer, and, you know, Protosses decide, well, as long as I don't die, then I can storm them to death eventually. That's the idea behind it. It's, yeah, I think it's a lot better than weapons upgrade.
I think it's.
But
like,
the next step.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say that the next step probably will be that the Zergs will start with the Evolution Chamber, and instead of going for attack for Figmas, they will go for simply Carapace, and then the Lynx will destroy the matchup. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Hawk will
I think the meta like swung. It's kind of interesting, right? Because it's like you started off like back in the old days where like knife fights, like one base, you know, and then you started like optimizing for like economy, right? And then now we're kind of like getting. I feel like this is the case for even TVP, like we said, where it's like you're getting a lot more aggressive before it hits that late game, like before the, you know, like in circuit breakers, you just go to like 4 base and you just like split map and all this stuff. But PvZ is taking like this weird thing where it's like these Zergs, they used to always go to Hive, right? So that's why like the 2-0 timing was important, because you had to, like Zergs would go prioritize Carapace because they go to Hive and they go Lurker and they have Lings and Lurkers. Now Zergs are like playing super aggro with their Hydras, right? So in that case, they're going for these +2 Hydra Lurker timings, and Protoss has to like defend against that. And like I've been having a really hard time playing against that in PvZ, because like if you don't scout that the Zerg is not going Hive, you really shouldn't attack into it. Like these are the Zergs that just like they just stay on lair, they just make all this crap, and then you get baited into like going for a goon timing, you commit too hard and you just lose your army and then you die, right? And like the solution there is like you just sit there you just make 4 base, you get Templars, you just get all your upgrades and you just ball up. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of interesting that like, I don't know, there's just a weird thing going on where it's like optimizing a little bit more for like aggro play in the mid game rather than like just going, I don't know, super duper late with Hive and stuff.
That's funny. That actually sounds like if we replace like 3 words you said, it sounds like you're talking about Terran versus Protoss, not Protoss versus Zerg. It's funny how the matchups can line up.
It's very similar, actually.
Yeah, TVP and PvZ are really, really similar. It's like Zergs, like Protoss and Zerg just have the same thing, right? Like they're just like super high tempo, huge like early mid game like economic / production advantage, and Terran and Protoss play this like lower tempo, just meat grinder, like cost efficient into late game. Now I feel like Zerg late game options are a bit more oppressive because the filer is pretty insane to deal with, so they can kind of like, you know, Terran versus Protoss, it's kind of pretty obvious that Terran splits the map, they will eventually win the game unless there's like 12 carriers. But Zerg kind of can sometimes kind of opt into playing more late game. Like if, you know, we go back years and years to where people are doing like far thirds and whatever into quick Hive. But outside of that, like the matchups are pretty much the same, those two, I feel like.
Yeah.
Zerg meta, it's kind of the opposite of what we were talking about with Terran. Like Terran is just like obsessing over upgrades and all their matchups. Protoss, it's kind of the same deal. Just less, but Zerg, it's gone the opposite direction where, you know, back in the day, you know, 2 Evo was like standard, right? You got to get your Evo upgrades. Now it's just like, you know, in some matchups, you don't even get your first Evo until after Hive. And part of that is that in a lot of the matchups, you don't really need that many upgrades because of Plague. If you just have Hydras and Plague, if you have Lurkers and Plague...
I can't believe Djayun left for this Hawk take, man.
You don't need an evolution chamber. I'm out of here.
Because of Plague. Because of Plague.
They're at 1 health. Why do you need upgrades, right?
I mean,
so it's gone the other direction for
I think
Zerg.
it's because Zerg units are just the best in the game.
The only caveat is that, you know, people figured out that Spire upgrades for mutas are really good.
Yeah.
But ground army, I mean, get Carapace and that's mostly what you need. Or versus Protoss ranged attack to get through the shields.
I want to go back to the +2 armor real fast before we go too far off topic. Gypsy already knows what I'm going to say because I rant about it often because people tell me they want a Protoss caster because NyoKen ain't got any Protoss knowledge. This is my take on the armor versus weapon since I'm not a Zerg player or a Protoss player. But +1 or +0 zealots, right? They 16 damage. Hydra has 80 health. That means it's 5 hits to kill them. But the Hydra regens 1 health.
I mean,
So
unless the 5,
yeah, he doesn't want to hear this, which is sad because I was going to ask him what's his opinion. But that means they're gonna regen 1 health, right? So it's actually 6 hits. If you get +1, it's going to be 5 hits every time. Gypsy's about to leave too. If you get +2, you have the same situation as the +0 scenario where 20 damage times 4 is 80, but then they regen 1 health, so it's still 5 hits, which is the same thing as +1, right? So why not just have the armor so you can soak up more hits and have your big damage dealers, like Hawk said, with the Templars? That's my opinion on +1 versus +2. And I like Zero's comment on Zergs getting Carapace, because if you get the 1 Carapace, it nullifies the +1 weapon, which means you're back down to 6 hits now, not just 5 from the from +1. So I think there may be mind games in the future where Zerg gets +1 Carapace, sometimes gets +1 weapon, sometimes. I saw Sulky do it in one of the games. And as I was watching it, I was like, well, this guy doesn't have +1 anymore because it just got negated and Sulky steamrolled him. Hawk, I don't know if you heard any of that, but...
Yeah, no, I get the gist. No, people are doing that. That's definitely a thing, is to do like a mix-up and get +1 Carapace, and then you're even on the weapons to Carapace upgrades. For Zerg, not many people realize this because all of Protoss meta in the Korean scene is preventing Mutalisks in PvZ, and then secondly, preventing Ling Lurker. And so Hydra is actually the lesser of those evils. Protosses can play against Hydra, but if you allow Ling Lurker with even Carapace upgrades, Protoss just gets shredded. Like, it's not even close. Like, their Zealots take 3 hits to kill Lings, Lurkers kill everything else. It's not fun to play.
That's actually a 500 IQ Hawk take.
What?
No, that's a really nice way of putting it. I'm not trolling you, but Jaeyun, you know what Hawk said earlier?
What did he say?
Zerg doesn't need upgrades because they have Plague.
Yeah.
Is that a Hawk take, you think? Or
yeah, why don't you try that against me, man?
I do in our games. 1 Evo until about 5. That's normal.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, we need some Hawk. You know, we don't have a Dog Holiday here, so Gyp's got to gatekeep somebody. It's kind of building up in him. He's like, I got to gatekeep somebody.
No, but actually, Hawk, what you said is really interesting. That they're
interesting.
No, but it's true.
Because all of what Protoss does is preventing Ling Lurker Muta, right? So
I mean, I wonder,
what Corsairs do?
Yeah.
They stop that. Like, you have to go Hydra, or you can maybe play Muta Scourge, but it's a lot harder, right? And then what does +1 weapons do? Stops Lings. Like, they really, and people forget this because it's just standard to prevent this stuff, but people forget it. It is so much harder for Protoss to play against Muta Lurker Ling than it is Hydra. It's just...
but the thing is, you just never see it at pro level, so it's just like... But there's clearly a reason. But I do wonder, like, if it's just... Like, is it really like it's an inferior way of playing the Hydralisks, or are just Protosses just that good at preventing it in the first place?
Protosses, I mean, that's...
I mean, Hydra
so structured.
Pretty good, man.
I mean, you get +1, and if you go Lings and you try and skip Hydras, your Lings just get shredded by +1 timing. It won't work, because they will stop it. Or you go Lings, and suddenly you get like 3 Corsairs killing all your Overlords, and, you know, building Spores kind of sucks. Like, their entire Corsair speed lot is a way to prevent that kind of style. Because that style, if you let it happen, is just oppressive for Protoss.
Well, remember when, like, Corsairs first came into popularity? It was a large part to deal with Saviors like 4 hatch, like 3 base, like Lurker Muta style.
Yeah, I mean, that's how Savior used to play every one of his games, and he had, like, you know, what, 75% win rate? That was back when people thought the matchup was just, you know, imbalanced completely.
Yeah.
And, you know, he very rarely did Mass Hydra.
Until Bisu.
Yeah, too bad he's gone now.
He'll be back, I think. When Flash will lead the way for Bisu back. We'll see. Flash will come back, and then Bisu will be like, "What about me, guys?" It'll be fine. I like this kind of talk we're on, so let's stay on it. Like, what are some of your guys' favorite meta shifts from the year and least favorite meta shifts from the year, because definitely StarCraft is being played differently at the end of 2021 than it was at the beginning. But what are some of the things that you guys liked and didn't like about that?
Hate
It can't
Vulture
be just
Man.
something that you hate. Vulture Man?
Vulture Man and
Explain.
Terran versus Terran.
Yeah.
Who wants to lose a game because they got supply blocked at 44 or built one less Vulture, or guy had a fourth factory at his natural and oh look, you win. Like, I mean, that's why you see me go Tank Wraith every game. It's because I just don't want to deal with it. First off, Tank Wraith not ideal versus Vulture, but at least it gets me a different comp than that. I hate that style.
I hate it too.
PV
Gypsy loves it with his young
Oh, I
brain
know.
and young fingers.
He-
He fucking
he's good at it.
loves it. He's like, I got 60 vultures, Artosis. You
Yeah.
got 14. Fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
okay, Gypsy, you're good.
I'm a boomer now, man. Soon I'll be 30.
Don't even. This guy's like 23 or something.
I wish.
You know, actually, Vulture Man has been the downfall of every era for me in Broodwar. And back when Hose play, I don't even know if anybody here knows Hose, but Artosis does. Me and Hose used to play all the time.
Fossil guy, right?
The fossil guy? No, the guy that called out like Spain and then lost the show match on Lost Temple. You remember that, Artosis?
Oh my god. You're like fucking revving up my brain. I have vague recollections.
He said like EU's got no good players, and he called out Spain like in particular. It wasn't Alpha. It was somebody not.
Was it like Suker?
Maybe Suker.
Yeah, it was Suker. No, it was a Protoss
What are you
player.
talking about, man?
Yeah, see, nobody else knows it, but this Terran player in the past, like back when people played one base, I would two-fat Goliath, tank Goliath, or Wraith, tank Wraith. I mean, Artosis knows about that. And I would just lose to tank Vulture every game. Then in 2005, when I was playing with more Koreans and actually tried to get better at the game, people started expanding in TVT like very fast. And I died to tank Vulture there. And now here I am again in 2021. Now it's just the most Vultures I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just endless. And it's like if you build one tank, you're like, haha, I got a superior unit. But then it runs over mine and kills not just your tank, also 5 Vultures all at once. It's like, why did I build this? Did I just build Vultures? It reminds me of ZVZ, where it's just like nonstop Lings the whole time, or Mutas. I hate the TVT meta right now.
Yeah. I'm definitely on board with that.
I like ZVT meta switch. Yeah, they're no longer 1-1-1. I like it personally because I feel like Maurice Medic is much more attractive for the viewers and for myself as well. So, but I think it also forced Zerg to play on 2 hatches. And the new meta, like, I think 2 years ago, like, 3 hatch was much more in the meta than nowadays. I think 80% of the strategies are 2 hatch, and it's mostly because of the 1-1-1, right? And now no Terrans are playing 1-1-1. This is the regular, come back to the regular 4 racks, 5 racks, depends on who prefers what. So I like this swing. Like, if it's good, I think, for the viewers, and for me, I don't know what other Zergs think about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, actually, ZVT 2 hatch has been sick, and just so many permutations, like 2.5 hatch, like especially Soma, just absolute galaxy brain with his like larva management and his own builds and stuff. Like he does stuff like 12-12-12, which is way different than like 12-11-10 for like hatch pool gas. Like 12-12-12, then he gets like this fast third hatch. It's like so much stuff in TVs in ZVT at least, and like definitely made 1-on-1 super obsolete. I feel like it feels bad to play. I mean, you can still kind of play it, but Zerg has so many options. Like they can all in you with mutas because like you have to go cloak wraiths. They can all in you with mutas. They can just get a fast carapace upgrade and get straight into ultras, and like the Terran upgrades are delayed, or they can just mass on lair. Like there's so many options.
Yeah, I like that as well, actually, that we went away from that 1-1-1 meta, because there's something about like just making fucking a ton of missile turrets and then like just barely holding on with this weird technical comp and then moving out at 10 minutes and like Zerg dies if they didn't fuck you up. It's like, that was not, I don't think that was TVZ's best time, right? And I think actually Flash's win rate he was mentioning went like so high at the peak of that it was just insanity. So yeah, it's nice to see the 2 hatch kind of fight that back this year.
I think 1-1-1 like denied Jaedong a championship. Remember when like in KSL when he was like he came back like from 3-0 against. I think first of all, I think he swept Rain, right? Like 3-0 or 4-0 or something. Then he like did a reverse sweep against Snow to come back 4-3, and that was super hype, and everyone was all like hyped up. And then Jaedong versus Last happened, and then from that point on, I was just I was too hurt. So now even though like Jaedong's back, I'm kind of like, I don't believe in you, bro. Like, you know what I mean? I don't believe in you.
Last who gave his wrist for a couple championships, and now you don't believe in Jaedong.
Washed up.
I don't know. I'm not a Jaedong believer, man.
Artosis, remove these clowns, please.
I know. What are they talking about?
The best Zerg of all time. What are you? Please.
He's not the best Zerg of all time.
Who's the best Zerg of all time then? Who's better? Don't even tell me.
We have no one better.
Okay,
he's a macro bot.
No, it's like
Jaedong's like the definition of a macro bot or of a mechanics bot.
He's a fighter bot. All he does is fight.
This
doesn't
guy
matter if he has less army. He'll just fight it anyway.
He's only got hands, man. His brain bit smooth.
Nyoken's breaking, man.
This guy
it's true. Every time you watch him play, he just takes fights.
The real Zergs, dude. The real Zergs all along were the Woongjin Zergs. SK and Solky and Zero. Yeah, they were the real Zergs all along. The big brain Zergs. Now Soma, the biggest brain of them all. He's the only one actually making real.
Man. I would be happy to see if Jaedong like cracks a top 4, but I mean, I think he can crack top 4. He's not going to win a championship. I think he's done, man. I just think he's done.
He might be done, but he's not. He's what?
Whatever.
You're acting like he can't make like top 8 or something like that.
No.
He had like 80% win rate in ZVZ, which was a matchup that people said was like a coin flip forever.
Yeah,
so
whenever it was bad, man, back in 2008, dude.
Yeah, but we don't like look towards Flash's return for him to like crack a round of 8. You know what I mean? like the standards are very high here. You can't, like, if we're talking about Jaedong like in his prime, it's like he's got to make a finals or like at least top 4 or something. But round of 8, it's like yeah, they can make a round of 8. Who cares about round of 8 though? You know what I mean? Like I've seen
doesn't make round of 8. Loki doesn't make round of 8.
Yeah, because he keeps losing ZVZ. It's not his fault against Gate Kappa.
He's a champ.
You mean the matchup that Jaedong dominated that I just said, 80% win rate versus?
Yeah, but dude, you sound like one of those like those TL boomers that are like the greatest Terran of all time is like Boxer or like.
Well, they're out of their minds.
Dude, like, I mean, I get it. I get it. Like the eras of dominance and stuff. But like, just dude, it's flawed.
What was that guy's name? Skeletor.
Skeleton.
Yeah. That guy could I mean, that guy was.
Oh, me and Gypsy were watching old YouTube VODs. First off, he didn't even know who Garimto was.
That was actually the best bonding I've ever had.
Who are these kids?
No,
oh my god!
Honestly, with NyoKen, every time we cast BSL, he just starts talking to me in between the games. He's like talking to me about some fossil player or some Skeletor or something. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, and in the cast, he's talking to me about like, oh yeah, this is the build they used to do in 2002. They went +1 character melee upgrades in ZVZ. Well, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And a couple of days ago, or like last week, I was like, hey, Dan, you ever watch these old OSL games? And I just started watching. I'm like, dude, who's this white guy, Gur? He's playing the Skeletor, and look at these builds they're using. And then I just ran through like the Wikipedia of like former players. I'm like, huh, so this is why the Marine is popular. And then I named all these players that Dan was like, yeah, this is what I was talking to you about this whole time. It was good.
Yeah, he like also didn't know who the Marine was. I'm like, are you?
Nah, come on.
Crazy?
I didn't know he won an OSL.
Guy's a fucking legend, man.
But
legendarily bad.
People in the chat that watch BSL know everything that Mihai here just said is a lie. Why? Because if you watch BSL, you know when I talk, literally 2 seconds later, he's like, yeah, what did you say? I wasn't listening. So you know everything that he just said right now was made up. You know that for a fact because, yeah, he said that on stream multiple times.
I don't know. I heard you talking about Skeletor, man. Come on.
Skeletor, you mean skeleton? But you were right. Yeah. He did go +1 weapon. He loved to go +1 weapon, ZVZ.
I don't know. You said it. I had it.
Yeah. He didn't know who Z-Zone Byun and all these people were. Artosis?
Yeah, Z-Zone, man.
Z-Zone. Yeah, like,
Z-Zone was a clan. It was a famous clan back in the day. These fucking
it sounds familiar.
Familiar. Familiar?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's crazy.
Isn't that the clan you were part of?
Next thing he's going to tell us he doesn't know 910 ETE. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Yeah. I'm happy that there's a VOD of Flash and Nada together, and Flash like acknowledging Nada's skill because of what somebody just said, saying Boxer back then. You know, he's nothing. Okay. I'm glad somebody, the top tier player, acknowledged Nada's skill.
Nada is good. Boxer, I don't think he was that good.
No, Boxer was like 2,500, man. Show some respect.
Yeah, he's 2,500 right now.
Boxer was good. He was good.
He's still good, man. He'd slap you, Jaeyun.
Whatever, man.
1-2.
He's not Flash. Okay, he's good. He's not Flash.
You know, I always think, like, if you brought Boxer back to, like, some of the maps that they used to play on, he'd be a lot better, you know? Like, his style, the whole, like, heavy one-base stuff, it works when the naturals suck. You know, there's, like, a giant backdoor to the natural. Like, it's like an open, sprawling thing where, you know, Lings can go in and ravage stuff. Yeah, he would be a lot better.
Dude, this is a good topic. Speaking of bringing Boxer to the present, you guys think there's any you think the current foreigners are just fake foreigners, fake top players? And if you know, cause you remember when there's this big okay, I'll actually make sense. Remember people were talking about how, like, all the good players after StarCraft 2, they kind of left Broodwar and it's not really like a competitive game anymore, and like the players that are left over, I mean, they're not really that good. They're just the only ones playing. How about now, though? Like, do you think the foreigner skill level, like, is it missing out on talent? I mean, I know, like, for example, when Scarlet actually played with us, she was really good. I mean, and I know she played a lot, though. Like, she wasn't just, like, dabbling in and out, whatever. She actually practiced quite a bit. And I wouldn't say, like, she was above the skill level of, like, anyone, like in NA, for example, because, you know, she played with all of us, but she was noticeably, like, very, like, you could tell, like, she was a very, very strong player. So, like, I don't know what you guys
think. It's impressive
like,
how quickly she grew in skill, right?
Yeah. So you guys think we're missing, like, would I don't know.
Well,
you think Idra would come back and win BSL?
Well, you're obviously
who would
missing
come back?
players.
Hydra.
Oh,
No.
well.
You serious?
So, like, when StarCraft 2 came out, I think it was the case. Like, the only top tier foreigner that stayed with StarCraft 1 was Cole. If you guys remember, like, Koll.
Yeah.
He was a Zerg player from Germany, but, like, amongst the top foreigners, he was literally the only one that didn't switch to StarCraft 2. So definitely it was true for, like, a little bit. But if you look at the players now, and the thing is, like, StarCraft 2 has been a pro game for so long, and the players are professionals. Like, they know RTS, they know what the fuck they're doing, they're quick as hell, they're really smart. So, like, I think overall, the skill level of foreigners in StarCraft 2 is much higher than in Broodwar, just because these people have been playing professionally. So, like, there's like 10 Scarlets that can come to Broodwar and just get to the top, I think. Like, they will be... It's like Bonneth ain't gonna beat them if they play for a year. You know, it's like they will be really good, like people like Serral and shit that are just like these guys could be Broodwar players. But I think like the foreign scene in Broodwar has a lot of talent right now. Like there's some very good players. Like watching Zeke play, that guy is really fucking good. Gypsy is really good. You know, there's a lot, and I mean, all of you guys are very, very strong. But I mean, like just looking at him and be like, oh god, this person's just better RTS than me. You know, like wow. Like just fast and smart and like mechanically there. I think there's a good amount of them. There's also a lot of chaff. There's a lot of fucking low APM Protoss apes, but you know, that's always going to be the case, even in StarCraft 2, right? Like that's my opinion.
And that's a hot take. So we basically, I feel like Artosis is saying we get farmed by Serral and Scarlet.
No. Okay, at the end of the day, it's not like people come back and like when they come back, they're like, you know, Hydra all of a sudden just stomps us, right? No, it's just like you put your money on the player that like knows how to improve. I mean, like nobody comes back and beats like a top foreigner if they just have not been, like playing at all or like not watching, right? Like you'll just lose to the meta. Like there's going to be some period of adjustment for like, you could just win with the meta because you just know more or you just solved whatever they used to play in the past, right? But like at the end of the day, it's like take Scarlet for example, right? Like she was improving at a very fast rate because she knew how to improve, right? Mm-hmm. There's like the people, and like Broodwar is kind of like the economy, right? It's like there's always inflation. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm serious. Like the average skill level, like there's inflation. It just grows. It just it just grows and grows and grows and grows, right? So like if you were out of the market for like 2 years, then you're behind, right? And like you might be able to come back because like, okay, I gotta follow this player. I gotta study this, and I gotta just improve, and then. Those players are the ones who can get good really fast, and that's Scarlet. Like, she just has like an approach, and I talk to her. She's like, yeah, this position on the bottom right in Shakura's temple mines, 8 minerals faster. I'm like, okay, dude, like she's watching every single detail of like every single pro bot, and she just like takes it minute by minute, and like she studies everything, right? And I'm like, okay, that's why she got good so fast because she knows how to improve. You know what I mean? She knows how to practice. And I think that's what separates like a good player, like know how to practice and then you actually go and do it. Right? Like you just have to play the game,
I think that's right. So when someone takes a break, I don't think they actually get that much worse. Like they stay the same. It's just that the player base gets better and then they come back and they're like, wow, I'm so bad. But really you're probably playing just about the same, but everyone's a lot better. But StarCraft versus StarCraft 2, or even like comparing like StarCraft now to like StarCraft in 2002, they're different games, right? Someone in 2002 is going to be good at StarCraft if they focus real hard, put in a lot of time and effort, and study a bunch, and they can win some tournaments. StarCraft nowadays, that type of player is probably just going to burn out. And, they're going to play a bunch and then realize the next tournament's in like a month and be like, they're not going to have staying power. So a lot of the really good players in Broodwar just know how to kind of chill, slowly improve. It takes a different skill set. And, a lot of people like to say that the skill set of like, really getting deep in and, quickly improving is where it's at and is a better skill set. But that skill set doesn't work in Broodwar just because of the nature of how the game is at the moment. You're going to be better suited towards the players who are, more chill, more, let's take our time and have actual staying power and kind of just keep at it over the years. And I like that skill set. I think a lot of us here are more in line with that. And
slow improvement is that's my jazz, man. That's where that's what I'm all about. But no, I think the thing is there's foreigner players that could keep up if they kept the professional mentality against, and there's like a lot of talent, like I mentioned. It's just there's not enough in Broodwar to have full-time professional foreigner players.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying that there's StarCraft 2 people that are already in that mindset, and if they came, that's what's so scary. Like you saw it with Scarlet, and she's not the best foreign, she's one of, but there's like 10 people her level in the foreign scene where it's like, these people are amazing, just ridiculous.
Well, 2022 Broodwar professional circuit.
You can hope. I don't know. Zero, help us out here. Is it going to happen?
Do you guys hear me? My microphone is working?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think like we are missing players like Red or Morrow, who also were extremely good when the Broodwar was, like when the StarCraft 2 was coming out. And I think like Morrow, Red, and maybe Draco are also the players who would, if they would come back, maybe there would be a chance for them to be in the level of the best foreigners. But like it's like I only think that they have a chance because I know that they've been semi-active during the last years. But if someone had like a break, 5 or 10 years break from StarCraft without playing at all, I think there is no chance to come back to the best competitor, like to the competitive level.
It really takes years to come back. I didn't play any StarCraft 1 for like 8 years or something. Then Remaster came out, and my God, it's just Hawk is right.
But you at least had the mechanics of StarCraft 2, right?
But mechanically, this is just so much harder, right? Like it's just you gotta.
Yeah.
It's tough. Anyone else have a take on the Foreigner level compared to those old days?
It was just a shit post, like a shit topic from Gypsy, casually laid in there. Thought I would spice it up.
Well, obviously, if certain people come back, they would be near the top, like you said, Rhett. Yeah, I mean, he already did it when he came back. He one of the first days I watched him play, he beat Rain. It's like, you did what? This guy.
He's so talented.
It's like, come again, you Rain, the guy from Fnatic. No. The Rain from Broodwar. I'm like, no, you didn't. And he's like, yeah, I did. Like, he's just amazing, right? Like, before the remastered event, I'd been playing for like 6 months, and we just started playing. And dJaeyun knew my style back then. It was camp the map on Circuit Breaker and just play for 50. Yeah, the Great Wall. And I probably had like a 60% win rate or something versus him, and he had only been playing like a month. I'm like, what? How? And then I lost at the remastered event like 3-1. It's like, how do you just up your skill so fast? But I want to preface, when Rhett says he's been playing for a month, it means he's been secretly playing for a while, and he's felt comfortable practicing with you for a month. That's what it really means. Yeah. But regardless, Rhett is obviously somebody that comes to mind. Mondragon, of course, comes to mind. Draco comes to mind. Noni and Hydra obviously come to mind. Noni, even when there were no pro replays, he's able to study the VODs and copy build orders exactly. Like, I can't even tell you how much better he would be where he can just flat out watch a pro stream, right? I think out of all of them, even though maybe hard for me, I hate calling it natural talent. Maybe Rhett has more natural talent. I think Noni fits kind of the mindset that you're talking about from these StarCraft 2 players, where he's really focused on optimizing and learning how to play like the best. So I think those 5 people.
I think you're completely right. Like, Noni is just like incredibly intelligent and knows how to do it. And I think that's actually by far the most useful thing to have in Broodwar. But Rhett is probably just straight up the most talented player I've ever seen in the foreign scene. He's always been like that. He'd go fucking inactive for 6 months, and within 4 games, I can't beat him again. Back in the old days, it's just like,
he's crazy.
Unreal, that guy. Unreal. Yeah.
And actually, Rhett echoed what you said about Scarlet. He said if Serral comes back, Serral would be the best foreigner without question in 1 year.
He said that to me too, and I told him I'd slap him.
Well, dude, Serral is something. He's one of the best ever in StarCraft 2. He is unbelievably fast.
But it took him years, and he has like a really good structure. I mean,
did it take him years to be the world champion?
What do you mean? He was playing StarCraft 2 since Wings of Liberty. What are you talking about? He was irrelevant for like 4, 5, 6 years until he started slapping people. Like, it's not like he came out of nowhere and like those guys. Yeah.
Come on. Who's ever come out of nowhere? Like, once StarCraft gets to a certain age, you just can't come out of nowhere anymore.
I think it's a bit unfair though, because Broodwar players, like, we don't have the support to play full time or dedicate ourselves fully. Okay, look at that topic.
Gypsy thinks he can go to StarCraft 2 and beat Serral? What the fuck? I can't believe you said
that. Well, I'll just say this.
No. I got slapped by Scarlet in practice games. I'll show my respect. I got slapped by Juan on one game.
I'll say this: just be careful what you wish for on this, because let's say StarCraft does get like a giant circuit, gets like a ton of like tournaments.
Yeah, it might
be
useless. I might be worthless, man. I might be terrible.
Yeah, the likelihood that we'll still be the top players in that different environment, super low.
Oh, Hawk.
We're top players in this, wasteland that we're conquering. We're kings. here,
Yeah,
but
like dust, you know.
we may not be as good trying to fight in a flourishing city. You know, that's
I don't know, man. I feel like I feel like you already have that environment. Just go play with Koreans.
No, but it's not like okay, but here's the thing. Like, if there were incentive, right? You know, let's say next year there's a $5 million Broodwar tournament, right? Right. Then I might shift my schedule to play more, right? Like I, you know, like me and Hawk always talk about this. You know, like most of the Broodwar players are like these older, you know, we have families or whatever. We have like limited time, and like if there exists incentive for us to like, okay, let's actually practice instead of just like keeping up with inflation or like trying to like beat inflation by 1%, you know, then it might change, right? But at the same time, like, yeah, it is true that, you know, like there isn't a whole lot of incentive, and therefore there's like a handful of players. It's like I try to practice PVZ and it's like Hawk and Striker, like best of fives, like, you know, and that's it, right? And like you look for Terrans, they don't exist. And then there's a handful of Protoss, and it's just like it is a wasteland, to be honest. It's kind of like I'm like, dude, I can't. Sure, I can play ladder, but I don't know.
Well, you have to play it if you enjoy it. That's what I think. It's all about staying power in Broodwar. I mean, you have to like really enjoy the game, and you have to like catch yourself if you're just practicing to practice and you're not really digging it. You're not gonna stay. And yeah, I don't know. Broodwar is just about...
It's like a marathon.
Passion. Yeah, it is a marathon.
Yeah.
And, you know, marathon people don't win sprints. You know, they're not the same. One guy isn't a marathon runner and a sprinter. They're different people, you know?
I like that. I like to think we are world-class marathon runners, you know?
Yeah.
We win the long 10-year battle, not the... That's why we're not BSL champions.
All right.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to the Serral thing. So, because I think I've seen some signature series of him, and he was saying something like that he was practicing Broodwar with his brother, or I don't know where I've seen it, but I remember that he was studying that in some kind of interviews with, for I think BlizzCon or something like that. And I'm wondering maybe he has some Broodwar background actually. And maybe Artosis, you know, something about it.
He does, right? Like he used to play, or I remember that.
He was a Broodwar player. Do you guys remember him?
Well, he definitely.
He might have been. I'm not. If he was, he was really, really, really young, and so probably not.
Yeah, I never
like he definitely wasn't known. He wasn't like a known foreigner in the Broodwar scene for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he wasn't known in StarCraft 2 for a while. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, guys. People don't just like... They're not like God's gift to StarCraft. They're born and they're like champions, you know?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's there's so few people that actually have that natural talent, right? Like, did you guys read that thing where Flash talked about the people he considered to be geniuses within StarCraft? He named like 3 people, and he wasn't one of them. It's like StarCraft is all about hard work long term, and
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's. I mean, no one after a certain point in time, there was like a very short period that probably ended around 2001. I think, TheNyoken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, where that was it. And then, like, everyone that got good, you saw them coming at least a year out. Like, there was, like, Op TOT on Europe server. Like, I saw Noni there grinding for over a year before he could take games off of any of the top USA players. Like, we saw him coming, we saw him getting better, and then eventually he was better than everyone, right? And, like, it happened, but... No one can just appear. It's like if you found anyone that was just suddenly really good, they were every time a map hacker. Every single time. It's like wait, Dino? Like what? This guy can beat us? And then you give him vision in the middle of the game, he doesn't even say anything because his map doesn't change. It's like, oh, okay, I get it.
You think StarCraft, like Broodwar, is so hard that you could actually have child prodigies in this game? Like, is this a weird sounding question?
Yeah, I don't understand what you mean.
Well, for example, like in chess, right? Like you have a bunch of these like kids that like grow up playing it, and they're like instant, like they're just like Magnus or whatever.
Yeah,
but sometimes Broodwar obviously doesn't have the same influx of, or like, if you look at other games like League and now Valorant, especially, CS wasn't happening as much anymore with like just a random kid coming along and like slamming people. But like, you saw it in League, you saw it in, probably going to see it in Valorant and whatever. You think like if Broodwar had an influx of like new blood, you could actually get really young talent like to the top, or is it like such a like fleshed out game that it actually takes years to get good, like regardless of your talent?
Like a strategy component. I think the barrier is that it's just like physically with your hands, you need to know the muscle memory, and no matter how talented you are or how smart you are, you don't develop muscle memory faster, right? So like it takes a certain number of like bat swings, like thousands, before you start getting that muscle memory. And the problem is that they could have perfect strategy and they would know what to do, but if they don't have all that time practicing and just the years it takes to develop quickly moving on the keyboard, it won't matter. They're just playing a different game.
Because but we've seen this with StarCraft too, though.
Well, I think even there, it takes a couple years of playing, but you're definitely right. In StarCraft 2, like, there's, like, rules for when you can start playing pro tournaments. Like, that happened to Raynor, where it's like, this kid, we had to wait for him to turn, I don't know, what was it, 16? And then he was top 5 world instantly. Like, just fucking, like, he's actually the guy that dethroned Serral. And and then we got to wait for Clem, and then Clem comes up and he turns 16. He's like, well, now he beats Raynor. That's fucking crazy. Like, and these younger and younger kids. So I think it could happen, but it still takes like at least a couple years, like Hawk said. Like you have to, if you don't have your brain working with your hands, it's like playing the piano. No matter how talented you are, it's going to take you a little bit to get good at moving your fingers on the keys.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's that Broodwar elitist in me. But what if StarCraft 2 is just easier? What if Broodwar is just a bit more
I can't
complicated?
StarCraft 2 is not easier. Like everybody says that. If it was then tell me this.
In a certain way.
Hawk doesn't even want to hear you.
Of course, in a certain way. Like I can build units easier, of course, because everything's on one hotkey or two hotkeys or whatever. You can tab on it. Of course, that's easier. But I have to say this because now I'm getting.
Because Scarlet said Broodwar is harder.
First the Dong thing. Now this. Like okay, maybe it is harder, but it's. Maybe slightly harder, but TY, who played Broodwar, right? He was pro when he was 12, and this gets onto your prodigy thing. Like, he played when he was 12, and he was on B team or barely A team forever, right? Like, it takes years.
That was pre-2010. The meta was pretty primitive back then.
But then TY not recently, but like last year, right? He had Flash come to his house, or he went to Flash's house and played, and he beat 3,000 top ladder players. Wasn't he playing Larva? I forget who he was playing against, but he beat like the best players.
But he was playing StarCraft 2 professionally for like 10 years.
Yeah, but you just said, is StarCraft 2 easier? I'm just saying he went from StarCraft 2 to Broodwar, and he's
but he played Broodwar before. So
okay, so what?
Yeah,
but I think that
I'm trolling.
I think okay, minus the trolling. I think the difference is that like StarCraft is an unchanged game, and that there's layers and layers and layers of knowledge that like you can't skip it. You know what I mean? Like you can't just like leapfrog. Like you have to learn like at least the relevant ones, right? Like I'm not talking about like 2002, like some like Neo jungle story, whatever that matters. I don't know. I'm not talking about that stuff, right? But I'm just saying like in general, like. You can't leapfrog and like, I came up with a new strategy. I'm just gonna, you know what I mean? Like you have to iterate upon all of the history. And StarCraft's like a unique game in the sense that there's such a dense history and like one of the longest like pro scenes of a strategy game that just keeps iterating and metas keep evolving. You can't just like leapfrog all of that. Like you have to learn it, and then you also have to like mechanically practice it. And a lot of the strategies within StarCraft, it's like you pushing the boundaries of what you can mechanically handle, right? And that's getting more and more complex over time. Like even like 1-1-1, like once you try that back in the day, it's like, dude, you'll just get stomped by like 6 lings, right? But like you just learn how to scout with your SCV. You just learn how to micro your vulture and like position everything like in the perfect spots to like tech the vessel, you know? And like you're almost capped by what you're able to mechanically do. So if you're unable to like mechanically do what Soma can do in ZVT, then that's not an optimal strategy for you. You know what I mean? So like the strategy is kind of open as you get better, because it's like you'll be capped. So I feel like it's a different type of game. You know what I mean? Because it's like mechanic plus strategy, and it also hasn't changed, right? So like whenever like StarCraft 2, you have like a new patch or something like that, right? Like you kind of hit the reset button. Like everything prior to that, it's not as important, like, you know, because it's like the game changed, right? But you can't necessarily do the same thing in Broodwar.
StarCraft 2 got a lot harder after Wings of Liberty, especially with Legacy of the Void. Like you can try going back, and I remember in Wings of Liberty, you know, it was a hard game for, you know, out of all the games, but compared to StarCraft 1, it was actually pretty easy to play. You know, it wasn't that bad, but like you go and play Legacy of the Void now, it is such a fast game. It's ridiculous how mechanically demanding the game is. And then Broodwar has changed in ways that people don't think about. So a lot of like Broodwar development is with units. So like I always mention like the move command on mutas. Like that just changed how mutas work. And it's not that much different, players discovering move command on mutas and how that improved how mutas fought. That's not all that different from StarCraft 2 developers buffing a unit. In practical terms, those are the same thing. And you see that over and over again, is that because StarCraft, you know, is either, you know, a well-designed game or a buggy game, however you want to say it, we kept on discovering these more and more things with these units. Like, oh, vultures can patrol and shoot backwards. And suddenly that changed, like, oh, I don't need to worry about zealots early on because my vultures can moving shot. And that happened over and over. And each time that happened, you know, the game is just different than how it was previously. And then builds change. And we're even seeing that now, you know, people continually figure out things and how to use their units and buildings. And I think that'll always continue. So it's just different.
They're both great games, guys. If you like one, you should like both of them. But yeah, you know, they are different, and I don't know. It's such like a old and silly thing. It's like that. Twitch chat loves it though. They eat that shit up. Like, what's better? What's worse? What's harder?
I'm just trying to be the villain, dude. You know, someone's got to channel the. I'm the head mod, so I have to channel the head.
yeah. God. I did bans and unbans yesterday, and as soon as we got to the Gypsy ban, it was just everyone's like unban.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
All right, let's shift a little bit here. Who would you guys give the best Foreigner of the Year award to? The best non-Korean player, and it can be one of each race and like an overall. But like, who do you think overall? Remember, it's been a long year. You can't just automatically say the latest BSL winner just because maybe they're the highest skill at this exact moment. But like, well, I guess you could say whatever the fuck you want, but what do you guys think? Like, who are the best foreigners this year for each race and overall?
No one.
All right, moving on.
No. I mean, like, I don't think there's one foreigner that's clearly above the rest. I think it's especially this year. You know, in previous years, easily say Bonneth, because obviously he just won all the tournaments. But this year he didn't. And didn't even win BSL. Didn't even make top 3 in this one. Last BSL, Terra won. But then kind of bombed out earlier in this one.
Thanks to who?
DeWalt didn't really. I mean, DeWalt, I think, safe choice skill wise, and even after playing him, I was very impressed. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's for real. But same time, did he really I mean, I don't know if it's a result of there not being that much cohesion in the foreign scene, because there's always just like these random show matches, or there's only really BSL to look at. There's not really like overarching tournaments. But I think objectively, if you look at it, I think there's like a certain tier of players. So like Bonneth and DeWalt, obviously. And then after that, I think something like Ziki and Oya and stuff. But I wouldn't say, like, I think from day to day it can change so much that there's no clear pick. Whereas
I think Bonneth is the best.
I still think Bonneth is the best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
It's my vote.
Well, I think DeWalt's the best. So there. Actually, truthfully, like, obviously Bonneth is still up near the top, and for people that don't know, he had actually COVID during his match against Ziki, right? So it's kind of, obviously you're not going to play as well when you have coronavirus, so that's a little bit rough for him. So who knows, maybe he could have won. I think he would have matched up better against Mihu anyways, but I don't know. I like Bonneth for overall strongest foreigner right now, because I think he plays like such cutting edge meta, right? Like he plays very Korean-esque, and he's not that stylistic, so I think that like adds some power to him. Maybe
Wait, you think Bonneth plays Korean-esque?
No. DeWalt.
Oh,
Bonneth. Yeah. Bonneth is very, very stylistic. He's really got his own way that he plays.
I don't know. I just think. I think DeWalt's kind of he plays like a Korean, right? Like he's like playing but. And you can make a case for DeWalt, like if you just like, I don't know, if we're like characters with like, stats and stuff like that, like, I don't know, builds, like micro, macro, and like all these little stats, like, DeWalt's probably like the most all around player, right? He has like everything, right? He has the tools to improve like slowly over time and stuff. I think Bonneth kind of just like he kind of like carves out his own way, because he approaches the game with like his understanding, and like he's like a units first type guy than like a builds first type guy, and he just like controls the game with his micro. He like makes the build with his control, right? He doesn't focus on the build and then like, okay, I got to focus on my control here, right? And like he's so good at it that he's just, I don't know. I mean, I think it just takes a certain level of like, and I think like there's a certain element of talent there. You know what I mean? Like it's just hard to, you can't really emulate what Bonneth does. I don't know. I'd be interested in what Zero thinks. Zero, do you think Bonneth or DeWalt is better, and why?
Yeah, this is a good question. Overall I feel like they're totally different players. Like Bonnie is a micro player. He loves to micro. He likes applying pressure. He likes to read what his opponent is doing and adjust to it. And he's very good with it. And he can read when he's behind what he should do. But sometimes he's lacking macro, and we can see that he's lacking handling gateways. So he has some worse sides. And the world feels like he's a strategy macro player who is very good in macro in like hitting those timings, the strategies and overall the understanding of the game or understanding of the strats. So I feel like those are the exact opposites of the protos that can exist, and they really on the highest possible level, and hard to say who of them is better. Like, I'm obviously biased, so I would say Bonnie, but I respect the world as much as Bonnie.
I would say Bonneth also. For Player of the Year for 2021, it has to be Bonneth or Terror. And I say that because Terror, one of the first Terrans to win BSL ever, and then he beat Bonneth. And I have to point out, Bonneth at the time had a 100% win rate versus Terran. 100%. Yeah. Like, he just doesn't lose versus Terran. And then he had like a 90% win rate PvP. And he plays DeWalt almost every single season. So if you're going to bet money on one person to win a game for you, it has to be Bonneth. However, as I've stated for many seasons now, I think DeWalt over time will be the best because of what Zero said, microplay. We've seen it over the course of history through Broodwar. Microplay lasts for a time, but at some point, people can micro as well as you and macro better than you. And that's where you just get outplayed, right? So if I'm going to pick one person, I would say Bonnet, but Terror had a great year, and I was looking at his Wikipedia. He plays in a lot of Latin events, and he wins them. So, I mean, it has to be Terror Bonnet.
What about Zerg players in the foreign scene? Doesn't feel like anyone had a super big year for the Zergs.
Well, without True Touch and Eon Zerg, generally...
It's just Zeke.
It's just Zeke or Hawk, for example, here. But Zeke was, I think, went the farthest last season in season 12. Can't remember exactly, but generally, unless it's Eon Zerg or True Touch, they're just going to die to DeWalt or Bonnet or something.
Well, I will say, and I don't want to open up, a little can of worms here, but I would say Crossy's definitely very, very highly skilled. But circumstances in the last BS.
Well, if we're just going to talk about skill,
just skill.
Yeah.
Crossy is extremely skilled. And I could tell you that like DeWalt and Bonnet are not comfortable playing against him. Like they have a winning rate. They're probably better players than him, right? But I think there's some sweat when they play against Crossy, because I think even in the last BSL, right, Crossy and Bonnet in their 2 games, Cross was in a really good spot, but then Bonnet just did his thing. Like Bonnet just does like this thing where like he just makes some decision, takes like a couple of good storms, like micros like 2 Dragoons out, and then all of a sudden he just wins, right? But Bonnet was on the ropes, man. Like especially that game on Aztec, like the second game, Cross Bonnet, like Cross was up in supply, and then Bonnet hit him with the DT drop there, and that's where like the experience for Bonnet starts to show. But Cross got a job, and that's what happens. He's not playing as much these days. That's what happens to Broodwar players.
There is also this Chinese Zerg player called Yedi or Jedi. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he also won with DeWalt 3-2, and in the show match, and he seemed extremely strong. So, if we would count the Chinese players, I think that normally I would say Ziki and probably Crossy, but if we would count the Chinese players, I would also say Yedi from the Zergs.
Yeah. And you'd probably have to add in Mihu to the Terran list too, if we're considering the Chinese players, right? He just looks so strong. What do you guys think as far as an up-and-coming foreigner player or an underrated foreigner player from this year that you think in 2022 we're going to see a lot more of, is going to kind of make a name for themselves?
I got 3. 2 of them are here. The Big Gyp and Hawk. The Big Gyp made a huge run in BSL, and I feel like I'm going to get scolded for this, but Mihai, like, didn't you just get like S like a year and a half ago? And now you're like 2,500. You're like, your skill has shot up ridiculously. I know you trolled about Zeke's comment about the 300 EAPM, but when you watch Gypsy's screen, it's not wasted APM. Like, I'm watching it, I'm like, what am I watching? And then he's got the best Marine SCV control I've ever seen. And people that watch his stream, is it Flash, dude? Like, that's me that says it. Like, because that was my genuine reaction to what I'm watching. Like, I don't want to jinx Mihai here because, that it puts like pressure on to do well. But like at the same time, it's true. Like, you can, when you see the potential, like you just can, I can just see it, right? And then Hawk, I played on ladder a couple times, and a lot of people say like, well, they're from NA or they're from EU. There's that inflation, right? Well, I've played 2,500 Zerg players, 2,600 Zerg players. When I played Hawk, I got that same type of feeling when I was playing like a 2,500 Zerg player. Same with Striker too. Like when I played Striker, Striker was killing it. Like I was crushing my everything. I was like, this kid's dead. Then all of a sudden the 4 gas kicked in. I'm like, holy moly, man. So I would say Gypsy, Hawk, and Striker. And then for Protoss, if this was last year, I would say Oyachi. But there's no 2021 Oyachi for me. So those would be my 3.
Okay.
Yeah, D2 resurrected. Took out Oya.
Yeah, it depends on the patch there. You know, whenever that releases, we're all gone.
I said last year, maybe it was last year. I remember it was a while back. I said in one of our discords that, you know, I was joking with a bunch of the other NA players. We got to watch out for Gypsy because probably has the most potential out of anyone here. Because you watch his mechanics. Like this was like more than maybe like a year ago. His mechanics were just absurd, and you know a lot of us got wins off of him just through meta playing around with that. But I was like, you should really watch out for him. And I'd still say that's true. For the next year, I'd probably say Gypsy has the most potential. I think if I can play a lot, I think like mechanics are okay. And if I play a lot, I'd say there's probably like 3 or 4 players which I would have trouble against, and everyone else I would feel pretty comfortable with. But you know, that's it for me. I think Gypsy though definitely, if he played a lot, he could win the BSL if he continues to improve.
Yeah, that's why I get tilted when he tells me, "Oh, I'm playing Black Star or Battlestar Galactica," or "I'm playing WoW now," or "Hey, I just installed Aeon." I'm like, "All right, well, see you in 2 weeks." It's like, can you just play Broodwar so I can see another BSL champion? That's Terran, please. So when he got top 4, actually, you know, Seriosity asked my prediction for BSL, and I said Mihai's going the distance. I said he's going to kill DeWalt, and he's going to kill Mihu again. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I think if the big Gyp got Mihu again, it was not a fluke the first time.
Yeah.
So if I would have to choose each race as well, then I would probably choose Gypsy as a Terran for sure, like incredible improvement. Striker as a Zerg, incredible improvement, and probably you won't like that, but he's also shaping the Protoss meta, but in the other way. But I think in 2021, Gosudark improved a lot as well. Like he's maybe playing in very low eco style, like opposite to Mihu, and he has his own style, but I think he has always pretty good results, like compared to when I was playing against him like 2 years ago, and right now I think he improved a lot.
Yeah, Gosudark's one of those guys that like for years, you know, in my head I'm kind of like, oh, he, you know, like that's just Gosudark, right? Like, oh, he's just a cheesy guy. But then like he just keeps like getting results and results and results and results, and I'm like, but you know, and then over time I'm kind of like, wait a minute, this guy's like pretty good. And he's actually really good. It's like a long time ago I just didn't like respect him at all because he just like plays like this all any style. But I mean, he's kind of like sort of like a tie too, you know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, I don't know if that's offensive to, well, whatever, but but sort of like, you know what I mean? Like they get results, right? You get results, and you have to respect consistent results. So, but I would say, you know, it's gonna probably be. I mean, I play Striker in practice a lot, and I'm just gonna say that guy is really good. He just has to figure it out in like tournament settings. He's literally like a carbon copy of in like an amateur Zerg. Like in practice, I'm just like, you know when you like play somebody really good and you just lose, and like it wasn't a gimmick. I didn't make any mistakes. Like, and Striker's that guy that like he doesn't really like do weird stuff all the time, but like when you just lose to somebody like pound for pound and you just feel like you couldn't do anything, it's like the worst feeling, right? You can't even make an excuse because like you played well and you just got crushed, and like I don't know, he's like a carbon copy of like an amateur Zerg, but I was hoping that he would have a run this season in BSL, but I think I don't know what happened, dude. He lost to Gosudark, right? Like he was like up like 40 supply in ZVP, right? Wasn't he? He was like up like
I think he was.
And I walked away from the game. I'm like, okay, this is over. Like, you know, watch the next one. And Gosudark does his thing, and then he just somehow like wins the game, right? And to be fair, I mean, to be Gosudark's credit, like he's a good player too. So But yeah, I think Striker, one of these seasons, he's going to get like top 4, top 3. But he's got to figure it out in the tournament setting.
Yeah, I think these up and coming players, it always takes an additional year to 2 to actually get to where we think that they're going to go. Like we saw that with Gypsy. I actually remember when Queen came out of the military, I was saying, like, literally that year I'd been watching his stream. I'm like, he's going to win a KSL or ASL. Yeah, didn't do it that year, and then the next year he wins like 2, and it's like, yeah, see, it just takes that little bit of extra time. But I definitely agree with your guys' assessment of Striker. He's like. There's this fucking thing that I hate about Striker and Hawk is that they're actually smart. Like, so many Zergs you play, they're just like, clicky, mutas, look at me, Dark Swarm, and like, you can get around that eventually, but when they actually have a fucking brain behind those mutas, it's like, oh, shit. Like, you know, it's very difficult to play against, and as their mechanics improve, it gets really scary.
I'll chime in.
One of the things I think Zerg in the foreign scene, they kind of fall out of favor because, you know, it takes so much time to practice your muta. And if you don't do it consistently, they just fall off. And so, you know, it's one of those things that it's a bit tough because, you know, the race is so centered around mutas that you really need to be like consistently playing and you know, have a really consistent micro it. Yeah.
I mean, Hawk's a super Gosu here, so I mean, I'll show my respect to him, of course, because we're on the same panel, not to be too biased. So, but I think Hawk has shown, especially this year, he has good results. You know, he's had good results, good matches as well. So it wouldn't be surprising, obviously, to see him do really well next year. Striker is insanely good. Play a lot of practice with him. And, you know, I played a lot with Cross and Striker for a while, and they were both insanely good. But Striker, especially recently, in some of the games, he's just, yeah, you just feel it. And you feel it like I feel it when I hit top Koreans on ladder. It's just, for him, it's a challenge to get that mentality in the tournament setting. So really hope for him to do that next year, and I think he's had slight glimpses here in the past, like this, especially towards the end of this year. He's actually had, like, he played in a show match versus Terra and Dandy and did well. Finally, I think that was one of his breakthrough performances, and I think if he keeps doing that, he can easily make top 8. But I mean, we're all NA gamers here, so like very biased. And I do want to say that in my experience, from just watching and playing against some of these players this year, I mean, DeWalt, no, is obviously he's good, and then you know, Bonnet obviously he's good, but I think I played Siki. That was one of the most that was really surprising to me. Siki has insane multitask, and I mean, he's an established player, so it's weird to say up and coming. But I think if Siki sat and like studied more, especially studied Koreans, I think he would be absolutely insane. That guy is like extremely talented. TVZ late game, usually I swear I just start overtaking people. And the first couple of games I played against this guy, I never played against him, but I was like, wait a second, what? This guy's out multitasking me. And I mean, I know that sounds like the most egotistical compliment ever, but it's just how I felt. And usually I haven't felt that in late game TVZ. And then I think, again, Oyaji for Protoss player, for non-North American, especially when you watch him play, his mechanics are really good. And he just needs, again, a bit of that guidance. I think a lot of the foreign scene just misses that studying VODs aspect, studying pro players, and keeping up with the actual Korean meta. And I think if more players did that, they would absolutely surge in skill. And I would love to see that next year. And there's just a lot of really, like, even, you know, in the South American scene, to name one person, I guess, that JD Conan guy.
Yeah, good.
Oh,
He's this Bolivian Zerg who's just been kind of like actually up and coming. He was like B rank or something this year, but he's been practicing. He hangs out in dJaeyun Cord and asks, and dJaeyun Cord is where all the resident Zergs are. So Striker, Hawk, and dJaeyun. Well, dJaeyun's kind of like fake Zerg now, but and he sits there and he like asks people for advice. You know, he's grinding. He's asking people for replay, for feedback and stuff. And recently he like smacked Tech, this guy who's been like an established like South American Protoss forever. And he's been really, Tech is, in my opinion, actually one of the best South American players, a bit underrated. But and this JD Conan guy from like B rank is just starting to get competitive. So I want to see him do well. I want to see him qualify for Pro League. And yeah, there's a lot of talent in the foreign scene. I think it's just a lot of these players need a bit of like guidance, or like just, you know, just that small bit more. And yeah.
Cool. And speaking of South Americans, I have to mention Ultra before we switch topics, because no joke, legit fantasy vibes on the Wavelet game. Like, I remember Scan telling me that Ultra got Scan's pack. Well, let's just say the impact was noticeable. Like, if you go back 3 seasons in BSL, Ultra never made it out of the round of 24. Then all of a sudden, did he make round of 8? I can't remember if he did.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah, like, round of 24, there's some people that shouldn't really be in Pro League, but when you get to round of 8, everybody deserves to be in round of 8. So Gypsy can.
Well, I also said that, like, one of the casts, I remember with you.
Yeah, he said it before I did.
I was like, this Tech guy, I mean, and don't get me wrong, Danny and Tara are really good players, obviously. But I think we've kind of, it's just been reiterated over and over. People kind of know that already. But Tech to me was like, yeah, this guy's definitely on their level when he plays well, and he beats them TVT. I know he's played some show matches. He's beaten both of them TVT. He's really good, and he's improved a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, what did it for me was the Polypoid game. I can't remember who it was against. The term. You even know it was a Zerg game.
Because he
played out of his mind. I'm like,
yeah, he played really well.
Are we watching? Who is this? Is this Ultra or is this Gypsy, for example? I'm like, what am I watching here? Like, everything was on point. He had like 4 bases. He's like maxed out. Meanwhile, Kenzie's at like 50 supply the whole game, only holding on because he's got the filers, right? Because they're so broken because of plague, right, Hawk? I'm like, legitimately, Ultra improved incredibly in just a single year.
I've got an Ultra story. I met him in person for like that first StarCraft Remastered tournament. And that one. Yeah, I met him too. Yeah, and if you watched him play, his mechanics were the strangest things I had ever seen. It was really odd. Like, he spammed a lot and had just a ton of bad habits. And not to like disparage it. This is like one of those things that normally you see that and you're like, okay, that's going to be really tough to fix those habits. And so I thought going forward, you know, as players got better, I honestly didn't think Ultra would stay. And I have to say, seeing him get as good as he's gotten now, and, you know, he's one of the top players, it is one of the most impressive things that I honestly was just completely wrong about. Like, seeing, you know, from that at the beginning and just watching how he played to now you look at him play, especially like his first person stuff, it is very crisp. There's little to no spam, like completely reworked a lot of his mechanics. It was completely unexpected, and I have to say it's incredible to see that from a player.
Awesome. Really good answers there on the up-and-coming foreigners. It'll be fun to kind of watch them and see which one of those come true. Let's quickly jump over and do the same for the Koreans. Who do you guys think is really kind of coming up that we are going to see much better results of next year? I know me and TheNyoken nailed this
Jaydong.
when we asked about it last year, but like, what about Jaydong? What do you guys say about that?
Well, there's nobody that's like really new now, right? Like Sorry and Rush are kind of new, but okay, who's new?
I think Ruin is going to have a good year. Like, I think he's going to pop up and be someone that you're seeing a lot of. Like, he is super cutting edge meta for Protoss, and he's like playing all the time right now. So he's the one that comes to mind.
I guess I don't watch enough Ruin to have that opinion. I'm going to go with somebody that everybody knows, but just doesn't necessarily have won, and hasn't necessarily won yet. And that's going to be Hero. And the reason is because top Zerg, who comes to mind? Well, a lot of people would say Zero and Soma, and that's it, though. But if you look at the past ASLs, who did really well, it was Hero. And there was like a game in ASL, I can't remember exactly which one, but he was massively behind. And then all of a sudden, he's even in supply. And I'm like, okay, what? And this guy who I was not even a big fan of him. He was similar to me for effort. I was not a big fan of effort either, because that one OSL versus Flash, I mean, he literally won just Ling flooding Flash. I was like, okay, like, where's the skill here? But effort turned it around for me when he won that ASL. He was a killer. And I get that same feeling versus with Hero now, but Hero plays whole types of strategies. Like, he's one of the few players that plays Hydra Lurker versus Terran with the Filers and Plague. I've been saying that is the most obnoxious thing to deal with ever. Mm-hmm. You plague them, and then you one-shot every unit from a distance. First time I saw that was on Heartbreak Ridge, which I've mentioned on BSL. Imagine walking into high ground blind and just watching all your units get one-shotted instantly. It is a nightmare. And Hero can play that. He can play everything. So I would say if we're going to look for one player to like be a champion next season that's unexpected, I would say Hero.
Mm-hmm. It's a good pick.
So I wanted to add that I think effort may be played this way, but I think this actual finals changed the meta that 1-on-1 stopped being played, because he showed people how to counter that, because that's what Flash was doing, right? That's why he was mass linging. But to answer this question, I feel like I'm crossing my fingers for Sulky, because I really like his style. I really like his the way he's playing. Like, it's very simple for me, because other style seems like very complicated, and Sulky style is like, at least ZVT is like, I'm going Mias Minutas with links just to live long enough till Ultras, and somehow he's able to win against the best Terrans by doing that. And somehow I like Sulky style. He's also like probably one of the lowest APM Zergs, but he's also very effective in that regard.
Yeah, Sulky takes better fights in ZVT than anybody. Like, the way he moves his army around, if you overextend for a fucking second, you are dead against Sulky, and that is it, and you are not coming back. He is... I love Sulky. His style is amazing.
That was my choice as well. I think Sulky is the best versus Terran. Like, bar none. Versus Protoss, I think he's one of the best. And then the only reason I think he hasn't won a bunch of tournaments by now is just ZVZ.
Yeah.
And that's the only matchup where players can abuse his, multitasking. But other than that, he's so ridiculously good. And it's just the way he thinks about the game. He does stuff that I have never seen anyone do, nor I have no idea how he even thinks to do them. It doesn't make sense to me. And then suddenly he does it, and then it clicks. And it's just like, oh, of course. What? Of course that works. What? But
did you see when he 7-pooled light and it just totally fucking failed, and he got interviewed about it? And he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm happy with that choice. That was a good choice for me." And I'm like, "Are you stupid or just that smart?" Like, he's just so different the way he looks at it.
Yeah, he's it really is incredible. He just thinks about the game differently, and he doesn't care if it comes out to look weird sometimes.
Good choice. Any other up-and-coming Koreans you're expecting a lot of next year, guys?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, still waiting on that sorry train.
But actually, like, it's kind of annoying, because to be honest, who was up and coming is really like Sorry and Soma, because they're both like the same age. They're younger than everyone else as well. and they've kind of like established. Well, Soma clearly he made the finals, could have won. I think I would love to see Soma win actually an ASL, and I would love to see Sorry win an ASL. I secretly think Sorry. I mean, it's hard because Rush, and by the way, Rush is 100% like my favorite player right now. I actually like watching him more than Light these days, and it's not to like say anything against those two players, but I think Sorry has the potential to like. It's just something about like, you know, you watch Rush play, you watch Light play. They play very solid and standard, and sure they have their own like styles, but it seems just extremely like kind of cookie cutter solid, except for like when Light does something crazy like that comeback on against who was it, Ruin actually on Eclipse. But Royal really has like his own spice, and it's the kind of spice that I saw watching Soma play. Like Soma has his own thing, and I think that's really exciting. But as far as amateurs are concerned, I mean, who's really up and coming? I hope Scan does well, obviously. The Scan has been really nice helping me with BSL. So I would like to say, you know, big thanks to him. And he's, honestly, I watch him play and I love how he plays. Like, unironically, just really, really talented. And I'd love to see him, like, break through, maybe make a round of 16. Who knows? I'm sure given the right tournament, given, like, an increase in skill, he might make it. But the real like up and coming players, they're all Protoss. Yeah. Like look at it, it's like YSC, Sins, Mighty, and as you said, Ruin. And to actually, Ruin's a really good choice. Between all of those, I would pick Sins or Mighty though, as an actual like, up and coming player. But I think Ruin's also an excellent choice for sure.
Yeah, Mighty is really, really good.
Yeah,
he is definitely really good. I also definitely agree. Scan is getting better and better and taking it super seriously. Also, Speed, aka Sexy, that Terran player, he's getting fucking good, man.
He's got some insane games, man. And whenever you see a Speed game, you know it's a Speed game because he's just speeding through and slamming into someone. It's very sexy, you know.
Yeah, he's really got his own style too, which is fun, and it's not as crazy as what Sorry is doing, but like he's got some interesting things that make me think about different ways to open up with Terran for sure. So I'm liking him as well.
Yeah.
Are there any up and coming Zerg players in the Korean scene?
No.
I can't think of any actually off the top of my head. Like,
no, I mean, there was Yabsab for a while, and then there was the other Zerg player who I always forget.
Yoon.
Yoon, there you go.
Oh yeah, Yoon, yeah.
But they just don't seem to be relevant, right? And again, like Soma really was the forefront of that, and I mean, he's established now. So I think
it's hard to know as like, because I'm sure like the circle, right, where they know the striker. We're not. Oh. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. No, I was just I lost my train of thought now. No, I was just saying like there's probably like, you know, the Korean community that like we wouldn't know like the strikers of the world because we're not like, you know what I mean? Like the whole point is that they're underrated and like we wouldn't be able to see them unless we're like plugged into their communities and like their little chat groups and stuff like we have.
Yeah, I think you kind of see up and coming Zerg players for a while because you just need good meta micro, and so like Soma had that, and everyone knew Soma was going to be good because his meta micro was crazy. You know, he was better than a lot of the top pros at meta micro for a long time, and everyone was like, okay, once he figures out the rest, he'll get there. So they don't really come as a surprise. if someone ever develops that, then they have it and they'll become good. But I don't see that in many amateur Zerg players right now. Though there's like a ton of Zerg players that could win an ASL, but up and comer.
I wonder if that means that 9 Throne is going to be good. Oh, go ahead, Serral.
I guess I have one more Zerg that I feel I want to do well in 2022, and it's Action. So I feel like this is a Zerg that is really complex and he's really good. And I think this was maybe not his year, 2021, but I think in 2020 he had really good results, and I hope he will do well as well in future, because I also recently discovered him. He wasn't super Gosu back in the days, right? He's just a big thing right now, right?
Yeah, the problem with Action is he has like all these harem of women just taking up all his time.
You see his mouse sensitivity? It's like 400. And if you watch him on stream, he's like slamming that mouse like furiously, to play. It seems just crazy that he plays like that, but somehow he manages it.
Huh. No, I never actually really watch him first person, but no, I do love his style too, because he's such like a macro guy. He actually did really well last year in ZVZ, now that I'm kind of thinking back, because that's where I thought he would end up falling like Sulky, because he's similar to Sulky in some ways, where he's like really good late game, and like whenever you find these Zergs that are really good in macro games, I feel like they can't win ZVZ. It's people like Soma that win ZVZ, where they're like, look at my lings, there they are!
You guys are crazy. Soma is like the biggest brain Zerg out there, man. I don't know. I feel like there's this like people kind of correlate mechanics to like mechanics and then strategy to strategy, but I think like a lot of these god tier macro players are god tier because they actually understand the game the most, and they understand how to like optimize in every single situation. Like they'll just make these small adjustments here and there. And Soma has like, I feel like Soma is the leader of the like Zerg meta. Like he is the one that's innovating. I don't think it's well, I mean, I might be wrong because I'm a Terran player, but I think most people look at Soma for.
People discount the strategy involved in fights, and one of the things that Soma innovated was a different way to fight Marines. So before, you'd have like mutas come in, they would like slowly pick off Marines at like long range, and so the Marines like barely got any damage off, and Soma comes in and is like, no. When you go 2-hatch, you don't want to snipe Marines from like long range. You want to have like an abomination mutaball that's like spread out, and you want to come in not at max range, but even closer. That way they spread their shot like crazy, and a bunch of Marines take damage, but maybe they don't die. And it looks ridiculous because the first time he comes in, like a muta dies and maybe like one Marine dies because the shot gets split like everywhere. But then the second time he comes in, he does it again and a bunch of Marines take damage and then like 3 die. And then the third time he comes in, you get even more and like 4 die. And suddenly you realize, oh, he's legitimately a genius. Like, why didn't anyone think to micro it that way? It's just. He's a very smart player.
That's the first time I heard that described like that, because I literally had a game yesterday where like on one of the sweeps in, like 8 Marines died. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, what? Like, how do you get your glaives to do that? I've never. It was shocking to me, because then I just like instantly lost the game, because like my group was too small, and then he just jumped on it and Lings ran past my bunker, and I'm like, oh, all right, I guess on to the next game. But that's interesting. Okay, to watch out for that. People who look like they have bad Mulus micro actually have the best. This is
you
perfect.
Gotta watch out not to press your T button too much.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, we are coming towards a close here, but I want to hear from you guys, like, what you're looking forward to for the Broodwar scene in 2022. If you have any like goals or aspirations, things that you want to accomplish, like, you know, New Year resolution type things. But yeah, and what you're excited about for Broodwar in the coming year?
Can I bring a topic up? I don't want to hog it, but what would it take? What would it take for a LAN event, assuming, you know, COVID safety, to appear something like, you know, the holiday like bash?
I mean, something like that would be awesome. I think COVID is what mostly fucks that up. But I mean, if that didn't exist, it would be amazing to have something like that. The thing is, even when they were, you know, we did those 3 or 4 events that just killed it viewership wise and barely cost anything, and we shopped it around and tried to get Blizzard, tried to get Twitch, tried to get everyone involved, and like, guys, it doesn't take much funding. It gets insane viewership. It's so much fun and so good for the game. No one cared. So it's like the funding is very hard to get for Broodwar. It's just, I don't know why.
But you think they can make that happen? Like, because you don't need that many players, right? Like, if you think about like Zotac Cup, that was like, well, I mean, the main event was like 6 players. Like, how much was like Holiday Bash? Wasn't it 6 players, right? And then you know you have some casters and some boards and stuff there, right? You just like rent out some room with like 2 computers, right? And then you just need like some cameras and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, like obviously like the COVID situation is like, you know, that always makes things tough, especially if there's like international, you know, flights and stuff. Like, you know, I know like Rustbrain does his like RCG thing, but you know, he's kind of payrolling that all himself. But in the events of like not, you know, having, you know, like a gigantic sponsor, right? Because it's probably unlikely that we get a sponsorship from like Blizzard or Twitch or something like that, right? I don't know. I mean, it's just like, is that something?
I think what JY is trying to say is us, the NA guys, we're unironically talking amongst each other to like do a meetup.
Yeah.
And Jaeyun's also inadvertently pitching that to you real day.
Yeah.
So
that's literally what I'm doing. I'm saying like if we could just fund our own flights to a location, right, and we fund our own stays, right.
And to be honest, I think that would be on everyone's like wish list for 2022. I mean,
right, and then we could crowdfund something, right? You know, obviously we have like the big Artosis that we could, you know, like fund your flight or something. I feel like we can make an event, man. Like,
I would give just about anything to play a Broodwar LAN. That's actually like the meaning of my life is to play Broodwar near other people playing Broodwar and try to beat them. Like that is actually, it's like why I am here in Korea. Like I can't get enough. It's like I was like afraid of flying and shit, and I'm just like, it doesn't matter because I'd rather die than not play Broodwar LANs. Like it's just, that is it for me. So I'm on board as long as there's no quarantine. Because like I'm in quarantine right now for 10 days. I've had fucking like 5 negative COVID tests, and I still have to sit in my fucking house and take my temperature twice a day. It's like insane. So like as long as that's not part of it, I will fucking be there. You don't gotta worry. If you have a real tournament LAN, I'll be there.
Oh well, there we go, man.
Nice.
That's all we needed to know.
Wait, I want to hear from Zero. Like, I don't know. Do you have any sneak peek previews for BSL's future next year, or any? I don't know. Anything for us?
So I'm planning to make like 3 seasons next year, and I'm trying to get funding for it. So like I want to come back to something we had in between BSL 7 and BSL 10s, where you were gaining BSL points during BSL 7, 8, and 9, and you can qualify for BSL like 10 with those points and with the additional qualifiers. So that's the overall goal, but that's within BSL. But overall, I would probably sacrifice 1 or 2 seasons of BSL for the good Broodwar LAN, because like I also feel like those are the events that they are not only like the great in terms of viewership, but they are also like bounding people together. Like if you meet guys during the offline tournament, it's like you really have like much bigger connection when you really meet in the offline tournament. You see how someone is behaving during the normal circumstances, and that's really like I feel like the biggest advantage and the biggest beauty of the Broodwar LAN. So definitely, if it will be possible, Broodwar LAN, I'm up for helping with that as well. If it will be possible with COVID, of course.
The LAN we had in Montreal for DreamHack, like what was it, 2 years ago, right before COVID hit? That was one of the best weekends of my life. It was just so sick, especially like modern Broodwar. You know, I hung out obviously with Dan and a lot of the people in the community, and it was just amazing. And I think also when I went to Korea and I hung out with you and Nick, Dan, real Dan, fake Dan, the real Dan. I mean, whenever I'm around like Broodwar players, especially, like the Broodwar community is so dear to me. Again, I'll take this time to just say much love to everyone here. But I think especially it would just be, I think that's what we're lacking, you know? And I think everyone would want to make that work because Broodwar is just such a god game, and I think we all love it to death, and we have that just binding us together. And I don't think there's anything like, there's so few communities like that out there, and it would be a shame not to just work towards it. I think everyone wants to make it happen, but it's hard because who starts the ball rolling, right? Who's like, and like, since there's no outside involvement, like, you know, there's no ESL for us, there's no Blizzard, there's no like ulterior like a mega corporation like we want to make money, so let's do it. I think we got to start like actually mobilizing like grassroots wise, you know.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of like we all kind of want it to happen, but we don't. Yeah, but nobody like can get it started. And it's also always awkward when like a player has to initiate. You know what I mean? Like when a player becomes like the organizer as well, it gets a little like funky because it's like conflict of interest and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, obviously we'll have to like see how the COVID situation works and stuff. But it would be really cool to like get a group together or something and just like work, you know, get something like that happening. Even if it's not like some sort of like a Zotag Cup or like something that's, you know, sponsored and whatever. But you know.
Yeah. I honestly, I think it has more to do with quarantine than anything else, because I've been jonesing, man. It's been 2 years since we've had a live ASL qualifier even. And I'm just like sitting here wiggling in my chair waiting. And it's just, if that stuff goes away, we can get shit to happen. Like it is doable.
Well, who knows, man, with this variant, it's just rampaging through the world. We'll get immunity faster, right, Forehead?
We'll see, I guess. Well, that would definitely be my goal for the new year, is to play some sort of Broodwar LAN. It is the most fun thing in the entire world. I hope RCG stuff works out. Although if it does, who knows if NA will have any fucking spots.
He went there.
It's true. That was the stupidest fucking decision I ever saw in my whole life.
The slots are allotted based on skill. You know, it's just NA needs to get better. That's all.
Yeah, crazy.
Wait, is RCG happening? Well, I thought it got postponed, right?
Not sure.
Who even qualified from NA or well, not even NA.
I think it got postponed to August, and from USA, like there is Boa versus Oya, Deworld versus Corget, Dandy versus Ultra, and Bonnie versus Sigis.
Yeah, Boa made it through the South American qualifier.
Actually, Boa, I thought that Hawk is there, but it's Boa actually from USA.
Oh yeah, Boa.
Good luck to Boa. Yeah.
I just want StarCraft to, you know, continue its thing. I just love the game. I love playing it. I especially love playing in tournament. I don't have a preference, too much on what type of tournament it is, so long as people take it seriously. And, you know, usually for that you need a prize pool. That's the only reason why, I care about one, is if you don't have one, people kind of just troll and throw games and shit. But yeah, I love competing. I especially love StarCraft. I've always played it since I was 8, and I will always play it. Maybe not the same amount, but it's just the best game in the world to me. And I can't ask much more of it. It's it's done so much already, but as long as it's there and there's someone to play it with, that's all I can ask for, and all I need.
Definitely. As long as the servers are active and I can get games that aren't turn rate 10 extra high latency, I am pretty happy.
Yeah, Peru doesn't count.
Yeah.
Sorry, turn rate 12.
Yeah.
Doesn't count.
Look, yeah. Give me turn rate 14 low. Okay, I'll do it. It's okay. All right. What about our hopes for next year's, guys? I know Hawk kind of gave his there, but what else? What are we hoping for? What are we looking forward to? What can the scene look forward to for next year to enjoy Broodwar wise?
Okay, I have one thing that everyone is definitely waiting for is Artosis in BSL. That's definitely a thing. We're waiting for that.
I'm gonna play the next one fucking not on stream my game, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm gonna use a VPN to connect to fucking Europe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Next year there's the 3 BSLs, right? And then there's always going to be ASL and stuff, but that's it, right? Like, I mean, we have BSL. I mean, Zero is just set. I have to take the time here. Zero is a fucking hero. Does an insane amount of work to get these tournaments churn them out like nonstop, and it's like the fact that this guy literally just learned to do all the producing and stuff, and then gets the ball rolling, gets manages 24 players who are often not cooperative, by the way, across the world, and literally sacrifices his own time. I remember you telling me Zero, you moved, you were moving, and then Karolcha left, and you still stayed in your old house because you had to run BSL. So, and this is the only this is the actual tournament that we have. It's not. There's always people that will say this could be better, that could be better, whatever. But the reality is, it's an amazing tournament, and if you look at the broadcasts, just the production value of it, everything, it's way better than for example what TSL used to be. Just it's just insane. Just everything that what it's grown into, especially if you look at the older bots, it's just amazing. And without that, I think the foreigner scene would be very stale. So big thanks, Zero, for everything you do.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, no, the foreign scene without BSL would be really desolate. It's the one thing that really gets everyone playing and excited. And it's exciting every fucking time, too. The millisecond that it's announced, there's just BSL all over the ladder to the point where,
even the
Koreans are fuck! What's the lag? I have so many Koreans just leave games against me because they see the BSL tag. They're fuck lag, and they leave. And it's I'm in Korea, but thank you. But BSL is amazing, so thank you, Zero, for that.
Thanks, guys, but I believe that there would be no BSL if you guys wouldn't hype it and help to promote it as well. So thank you guys for doing what you are doing, and yeah, together we are stronger.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Yeah, I agree. Hope to see multiple BSLs, obviously, and then potentially that BSL 10 season. Of course, I'm still hoping for the dream where Blizzard says, "Hey, come to BlizzCon." Top 4 or top 3 finalists from BSL, and we play some type of show match. I know that's not going to happen, but in my mind, I dream of it. Mm-hmm. This is a personal goal. I've been in Korea for 2 years. How many ASLs have I been to, Artosis?
Dude, you came at
0.
exactly the worst possible time. NyoKen came out, and it's he's supposed to be the new sub for all the Broodwar stuff. We have so much going on. And then Blizzard cuts KSL and COVID hits and no more audiences and shit. And Tastes I can't travel. And it's sorry, NyoKen.
I will have to say, being able to cast ASL with Scan is fantastic. But in my mind, I imagine doing it in person just for the experience, right? But I still appreciate Afrika letting me do it, obviously. So that's like a personal goal. I want to, actually, the finals and the third and fourth place match were in person. You know that. They had 50 seats available. Well, guess who couldn't go? Because I'm casting it. It's like, are you serious? I can't even get to go to that. And then I didn't go to any qualifiers. Oh, I did go to one qualifier with you, and I got eliminated by
that's right, yeah,
some like 2600 Terran. It's an amateur Terran. I forget his name. I mean, that was fun, and I sat right next to
Sky, right? You lost to Ride Sky.
Oh yes, Ride Sky, and I had Beast. Caster Muse introduced me as a foreign pro, and I just was laughing like, okay, foreign pro, and he introduced me as that to Beast, the Zerg Beast. So to have like Beast, a top tier player, just like filming you play, I mean, this is a whole new experience to me. So I just a personal goal. I hope I get to go to ASL because obviously I can't stay in Korea forever. So before I go, I would like to go to that.
I know.
I would like to see ASTL again. I know it's running right now. What else? I want to see Ascension 2, man. I mean, I pitched you that idea of EU versus NA.
Yeah.
We see EU versus NA continental battles, but I want to see it in a real, like, cutthroat tournament like that.
I would like to do it. It seems to have calmed down a little bit because there was like this little bit of time, especially with the RCG shit, where they're like, Europe is way better than North America. I'm like, no, it's actually literally not. It's just the North America has plenty of very strong players. But if it was still like rabid, I probably would do something. Maybe we still can.
Oh, we could start it. We can start. We can start BMing whenever.
Those MMR inflated pricks. No. I'm looking forward next year to trying to get into BSL again. I think I've had the most games on the ladder almost every single season for at least the last like 5 seasons. Fucking can't quite do it. And yeah, I hope live shit, like TheNyoken said. I moved out here for a fucking reason, man. I want live StarCraft. I want to plug my keyboard in somewhere and play on a different PC, and then be able to look at the person who killed me in the eyes afterwards.
I remember as soon as I heard that, you know what I instantly thought of? Because some other streamer named Steve was watching old games today, and he was watching me versus you from the U.S. Open on Blue Storm. I didn't see the beginning, but I remember you 6-raxing me on Blue Storm, and I was thinking about what you say all the time. Well, I guess he's better than me. And I had just proxied my racks across the map because that's how TVT was. Yeah, I remember at that time I was like, oh, and that was the first time you told me you have a build order notebook. I'm like, wow. What's that page say? Like, build a barracks on 6 and that's it, and just win the game? I was so mad.
Dude,
I want to have another moment like that.
The NA guys used to troll me about my build order notebook. Once they took it, I forget who did this. Maybe it was you, TheNyoken, but someone took it and, like, at the end of every page wrote, and then lose. Like, I have my build order and then lose. It's like, oh.
Oh, yeah. Live events are great, and I remember... Oh, well, I won't mention that part, but I remember Skew throwing his...
check in the river.
Huge check in the river. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember going to a club. Was it a club? It was like the after party of WCG, and Tasteless is like the only outgoing person there, and they had like music, and he's like, hey, you guys want to dance or something? Nobody danced. And I don't even remember if Tasteless did. But he was just so awkward and weird. I love it. I was actually looking up Eminem's old photos. They're online,
Yeah, I downloaded them all, actually, yeah.
Yeah, looking at the old times, looking at how young we all are, and yeah, good times. But going to the Chuck E. Cheese, aka like the Dave and Buster's in 2004. In 2003, playing in the tent in the parking lot. Watching Hoves throw a game versus a Sem. a one game. And remember, Hasem went to Korea because of that. I was like, no!
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good times.
Damn, you guys lived in the golden age.
Well, here's the thing. WCG was the most poorly run bullshit. Joe Moss, you still owe me a monitor. And it was so poorly done, but it was like 1 to 2 LAN tournaments a year you would get. One if you were not good enough, and if you were like top 8 or so, or 16, however many we had at the Finals USA, then you get 2 LANs. And that was enough to keep the entire scene active the entire year. It's like
you guys have such I must say this, like, you guys have such great stories, and like, especially me, because I'm, significantly younger in that sense. But I remember growing up and like reading the forums and like just reading all of this shit specifically about you guys. And even like when when you had even when you have like G5 or Bryce on, or like anyone, and you guys start talking about these stories, it's just hilarious. So I'm telling you guys this as a fan, like, 'cause I know probably a lot of the guys in the chat feel the same way, but it was clowny, admittedly, and like old school, like, not well organized, but you guys have amazing stories, and I feel kind of jealous in that sense, like missing out on those types of experiences. So I think it's only a good thing for y'all.
Well, yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I wish we could go back to something like that. But look, if COVID fucking stops this bullshit, I want to have a fucking sit down talk with that thing. But like, and if there were just a couple LANs a year, big community LANs that everyone goes to with decent prizes, that's not undoable. And these types of things can happen again. It is not undoable.
Yeah.
Even starting with something small, like 2 spots on Home Story Cup or something like that, is like, actually I send an email to the Home Story Cup guys if they are agree to like maybe make a 2 or 4 spots, but probably I'm one of the 1,000 people who are writing to them. But like, even starting with something small once a year is huge motivation compared to purely online tournaments without any offline during the year.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of does it. This was an excellent time, guys. Thank you all so much for coming on the show and kind of reminiscing about the year, talking about next year. I feel like we could go on and on and on, but I have a lot of MMR I got to donate to the ladder today. But let's go around and, guys, tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, see more of you, what you're up to, that type of thing. TheNyoken, let's start out with you.
Well, you can find me casting BSL when the new season starts. Maybe casting ASL if Afrika wants me back for that. And of course, I stream every now and then. So definitely check me out on Twitch /TheNyoken. And I mean, I have a Twitter, but I don't use it, so kind of just stick to my Twitch.
TheNyoken, I believe. All right, thank you much. And Djayun, how about you?
Yeah, mostly probably my stream, twitch.tv/Djayun. I have a Twitter, but I don't use it except to look at stuff. Join my Discord community. That's also there, and my Twitch page if you want to join in on the fun. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay. And Zero, how about you?
So I mostly like stream on Twitch, so it's Twitch TV ZZZeroPL, and I also like upload everything on YouTube, which is like Bombastic Star League YouTube, and like I also use like Twitter, Facebook, but it's mostly to promote BSL. So if someone is following one, is enough. But it's like all Twitter is Bombastic Star and Facebook is Bombastic Star League. So yeah, like those are the most thing. But the most important one, at least for now, is a Twitch one.
Absolutely. And I think you changed it from your YouTube channel from Didek, right?
Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, I was able to change it only after I had the 1,000 subscribers. So finally I was able to change it because it was a stupid nickname. I know.
Remember teasing you about that last year. All right. Excellent. Everyone should definitely go follow Zero. He is like actually the most important person within the scene. We have to protect him. We have to keep him going. All right. Hawk, how about you? Where can people find more of you?
Yep. I mainly use Twitch and YouTube. So it's twitch.tv/HawkSC on both Twitch and YouTube. On YouTube, I have a lot of Zerg guides and a lot of Zerg content. I have to say that race is filled with stuff that you will never find out on your own. And not many people actually catalog how to do things with that race. So, if you're interested in kind of learning more about the game, I've got some decent stuff on there. Hopefully we'll upload more.
Awesome. And Gypsy, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me, on Twitter, I guess, Gypsy Broodwar. I don't really use it too much, but occasionally post some garbage. And also a YouTube that I occasionally upload videos on that I would like to do more, but, it's a lot of work. So, which is also GypsyBW, Gypsy space BW on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it. And if not, my Twitch, of course, come on down and get banned. Twitch.tv, Gypsy93. And you're most likely going to get banned on my stream. So
he's not joking.
Sure you get make sure you come check it out.
He even banned me, so
damn, I remember that. Oh my god.
I was like, shit, man. This guy.
Yeah, it's a rite of initiation, honestly. So
thanks.
Yeah.
Just want to be one of the guys. All right. Yeah, so that about does it. Thanks again, guys, for coming on. This was absolutely such a blast. We'll have to do it again sometime, hopefully in person in the coming year. So that does it for the Pylon Show. Big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. Of course, Cobra, our producer, everyone involved with the Pylon Show. There will be more coming up that you guys can see with Pylon Show. Of course, check out thepylonshow.com. And yeah, that just about does it, guys. I am going to be doing my regular stream from here, so just sit tight. We'll be up with that in just a second. We'll see you later. Or I'll see you in just a minute. Okay, I'm getting a live... Hold on. I'm getting a live video feed from that guy's house. Hold on. Okay, I'm bringing it up now. Oh my god. That Protoss. Oh my god. That's who I just played against? Oh, man.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Fumble McGuffin, and I'm here to talk to you about the state of StarCraft. It is well known that the team that was actively developing the game was thrown out. And then the whole company got in a big load of trouble. So the question is, what keeps the game alive? Now, I have the information for you. If you look above me at the $100, $50, $25, $20, $15, and $10, these people are helping out with their own dollar. I'm talking $10, that could have been a Chipotle burrito. $15, add chips and a drink. But instead, they support StarCraft. Instead of paying for some other game, they say, no, I want to see the Pylon Show. What is the Pylon Show? The Pylon Show is the pillar of the community. It is the meeting place. It's the common ground where the StarCraft people are summoned together by this money, actually. How do you get the guests on the show? We will pay you for your time. It helps, I'll tell you. But somebody's got to pay them. Who's it going to be? Some big sponsorship? No. It's them. It's Shane. This field of sins. It's them. $10. All of them. We appreciate that. And without them, we'd be fucked.